Nighttime Show with your host, Stephen Kramer Glickman. Tonight, we have head writer Matt Walker. I'm Mike Glazer, your guest announcer and personal love dowel. Our special guest tonight is producer of such incredible films as American History X, Dark City, The Wedding Singer, and Final Destination, Brian Witten. And now, the only relative of Jabba the Hutt that lives in our star system, Stephen Kramer Glickman.
Yeah! Bringing the motherfucking heat! What's up, bro? Great job. Yeah. You nailed it.
Feeling okay about it.
Wow, man.
Nailed it.
Damn, Mike Glazer, you a bad motherfucker for real.
Oh, come on. Thank you.
Wow, that was very good. That was really impressive. That was great. I'm not going to say it was better than Robbie, but
well,
it was better than Robbie. but I love Robbie. But no, Robbie's weird in his own way when he does it. He does
I kind of like the weird Robbie.
I'm Robbie. he's like an inflatable person, that guy. You know, I love that guy so much.
Well, that's what, when we had him as a Pokemon on the last Nighttime Show, he's like a real life Pokemon.
All right, no, real quick, before we get into this, because we got a lot of surprises today. Mm-hmm. We got a surprise for Brian. We got a wonderful guest. We got great things happening. Glazer. The other day, I had a fireball moment. Mike, you ever have one of those? You ever have a fireball moment?
Crazy stuff happens if you take fireball.
Oh yeah, the world gets better. Yeah. Things get crazier. Yeah. Matt, you ever have one of these fireball moments?
Yeah, I have. It's wild.
A lot of fun. Yeah,
it's fun.
You do 2 shots of fireball whiskey, and then boom, everything changes. Things get better. World heightens. Your senses, everything, man. It's crazy. It's some crazy stuff. The other day I had it happen. I was over at Boston Market. You know this place, Boston
I love
Market?
Boston Market.
Oh, it's so good, right? Mm-hmm. I was over at Boston Market in Burbank.
Nice.
Wandering around, having a little Boston Market, sat down, had some of that cornbread. You like that cornbread?
It's the best.
Oh, it's so good. Nobody makes cornbread as good as Boston Market.
The best.
No, it was so delicious. So I'm sitting there having a pot pie and a little Boston Market, and I decide I'm going to go to use the old restroom, right? Mm-hmm. And I go over, but it's closed. They say you have to go around back. Okay, I said, go around back. So I wander around back behind Boston Market.
Yeah.
I walk.
This is after you had your fireball?
This is after I'd had some fireball shots. Mm-hmm. I go around back behind Boston Market, and I start wandering behind Jamba Juice, a couple of these places. Mm-hmm. I start seeing a little forest. I go through the trees, and what do I see? What do I see? Huh. There's a swamp out there. Did you know this? There's a Burbank swamp.
Whoa.
It's a loch, is what they refer to it as.
Yeah.
And I look out there in the water, and guess what I saw? Guess what I saw, buddy?
What?
I saw a Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, really?
The Loch Ness Monster.
2 fireball shots in. I see the Loch Ness Monster. I look out there, and I go, excuse me, are you the Loch Ness Monster?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Wow. How's it going?
Wow, you're so friendly.
Well, yeah, a lot of people think I'm not, but it's nice to talk to somebody.
It must be so lonely out here out in the forest of Burbank in the swamp.
Yeah, nobody comes out here except land developers, but, I always got to hide from them.
Well, you don't have to hide from me, buddy. It sure would be nice to be best friends. You think we could be best friends?
I don't know. What are you doing out here?
Well, I was eating Boston Market for lunch.
Oh, my God, they're cornbread.
Right, they're cornbread. So good. And then I had a couple of shots of Fireball whiskey. You ever had any Fireball whiskey?
Oh, man, yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, well, I get Fireball whiskey all the time. If you want it, we can have some Fireball whiskey moments together.
Oh, man. You mean this?
I do.
You mean this?
I do. And then here's what happened, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
We drank that Fireball whiskey together, and then we made sweet love.
Whoa! Wow!
Yeah. And
Did you ever ask the Loch Ness Monster why he wasn't in the Loch Ness?
I just said, guess what? Now we're best friends, and then we were, and we made love.
That's beautiful.
That's a true story.
Are you gonna marry him?
Well, we'll see. It's not a him. It's like it sort of. Anyways, the point is that when you drink Fireball whiskey, amazing things happen. So,
yeah, you met Loch Ness.
I met the Loch Ness. I made love to the Loch Ness Monster. And then we shared some Boston Market cornbread, and it was super good. Hey, before we get started, Brian, can you hop on mic?
Hello.
Brian. Brian is our phenomenal sound guy, producer. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you.
We just heard the great news that you were on Comedy Bang Bang. The people saw you on the Comedy Bang Bang.
Yes, I
That's
appeared
awesome.
in the 3rd and 4th seasons of that show.
Oh my God, amazing, man. Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
Okay, so me and Matt were having a real
sounds very
conversation.
skeptical
Yeah, no,
at this
I know.
point.
This is skeptical. Is it true that you are in a relationship or are you single?
I'm single.
See, I told you.
You're right. Okay. I was wrong. I thought he had a
Fucking
girlfriend.
told you, Matt.
I
told you.
I thought he had a girlfriend.
Hi,
What do I
Rita.
know?
How are you? Rita, the woman who runs this phenomenal. Will you say hi for 1 second? Just say a quick hi to everybody.
Hi, sexy motherfucker.
Yes. Oh, Rita.
Sorry if I just cockblocked. Oh, is that Glazer?
Hi.
He just
Yeah.
quit his job here
I know.
because he's going on to huge things.
He's amazing talent.
He's catapulting out.
I know.
He's
we love
great.
this guy.
It was
The
all
best
'cause
part of
this
my job.
place.
No, we love you, Glazer.
Love
I
you.
just need a fucking box of donuts, glazed donuts. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Love you guys.
I love you, Rita,
Thank you,
so
Rita.
much. She's the greatest there ever was.
Okay, so I was
Or there
wrong.
ever will be. Yeah, I told you. All right, so here's the deal, buddy boy. Here's the deal, Brian. I have a lady I want to hook you up with. She's a very attractive lady, and we were talking the other day, and I want to hook you up. Is that possible? Would you let me hook you up with a lady?
Sight unseen. Yeah.
I'm going to show you a
Nice.
picture. Hang on, I'm going to show you a picture,
That's good trust.
and then I'm gonna do this right now. While
I'm flattered, by the way. I thought you had teed me up before, like, I'm going to ask you a question on the air. I'm going to save it for when you're on the air. And
Yeah.
He thought it was
going to
go terribly wrong. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna here, guys. This is a real thing that's really happening right now. I'm gonna go over and show him here. Show him this picture. You tell me if this is someone you would go out with on a date. All right, we're waiting. Here we go.
Yeah.
Would you go out with her?
Certainly.
All right, we're gonna call her right now, and I'm gonna tell her, and let's pause.
What's her name?
Her name
Can you-
is.
she has
Wait,
one.
hang on. Let's pause the show real quick. Can we pause it?
Surely.
Okay, we're gonna get this thing figured out with our lady friend here.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna try to call her. We tried to call her. She didn't answer the phone. We're gonna wait for her to call back. See if something happens here. But right now we have a guest here in studio. I am so excited about this. I've been trying to get you to come do this show for a while, but to your credit, you've always said you would come do it. But timing is everything, especially in your business. You're working all the time. You're always kicking so much ass. People may know some of the movies that you've produced on and worked on. American History X. The Wedding Singer, Dark City, so many other phenomenal, Final Destination, so many other great movies. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Brian Witten in the room. Yes!
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
buddy.
you.
How are you?
Well, good to see you.
Oh, man.
And
So
everyone
cool.
else.
So cool that you're
Yeah.
here.
Phenomenal you're here.
What's happening with you right now in your life? What's going on with you right now?
Right.
Like, what was today? What was today like for you?
Today, with my partner Jeff Krelitz, who owns Heavy Metal. You know the magazine Heavy Metal.
Of course. Such a badass magazine.
Great magazine, and I grew up on it. Like in particular, I grew up on loving comic books. But what was great about Heavy Metal was that it had a lot of, let's be honest, like
Boobs.
boobs. Yeah.
I remember jerking off.
And violence. So when I would go to the comic book store, I could buy all my Marvel and DC stuff, but my parents wouldn't really pay attention to Heavy Metal. So there's a lot of pussy, you know.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It's great.
It was great.
It's such a great. You guys had the best booth at Comic Con too, and so do you co-own the company?
No,
Or you
my buddy Jeff does. I'm the president.
You're the president of the company. Oh my god,
I mean,
it's
in the
amazing.
movie Heavy Metal, the movie from back in the 70s, whenever that was, like when I saw that, I was about 19, like a sophomore in college or whatever, and it was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like,
And were
I
you
was like,
sober?
yeah.
You
Oh,
were.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
for you.
I didn't start drinking until I was 21, so I was
Oh,
totally
okay.
sober when I saw it. But it was like, I was like, this is such a cool movie. And it's like because you don't think of animated movies when you're an adult as being things that aren't just for kids, especially at that
true.
time. Because, this came out in the 70s when the movie was released, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like 79,
Something like that,
81?
yeah.
Such
So, I mean,
a
at that era, it was like an animated movie would be, Pinocchio or whatever. It was like a whole,
Right.
it was like a different thing.
Now, was Kevin
And
Eastman involved in the film, or was he involved in any of that?
No, that was before he.
That was before he got
Bought it,
involved. Yeah. That's so badass.
But we had today. We just had meetings on heavy metal and met with a studio about doing an animated series and other things pertaining to it. So
God, that would make so much sense to do that right now. That's with this culture right now. The way that people are, people are so into cartoons, and grown ups are like so. I mean, Sausage Party is like
it's
killing
great.
it right now.
Did you guys see that?
Oh my God, it's so funny. You haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen it. I watched Heavy Metal again. I was like,
Dude, it's you were watching Heavy Metal the whole time.
It was hysterical.
Great. It was hilarious.
I was a good dad. I took my 16-year-old son to see Sausage Party.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's such a good move.
Yeah, right?
That's badass. Do you have other kids too, or do you have only one kid?
Yeah, I have my oldest son, Jonathan, is 16, and then Goldie is 13, and then Leo is 12.
Wow.
And I'm a bad dad because I'll take them to any movie and whatever. I'm the opposite of my dad.
No, that's great.
Though my dad did take me to see Alien when I was 14, which was awesome.
That's great. That's a great movie. I got to see Pulp Fiction when it came out in the theater, and I was young. I was like 11 or 12.
You can't have been that young.
I was pretty young.
I saw Pulp Fiction. I was in college. Pulp Fiction came out in 1994.
94? Are you sure it came out in 94?
Yes.
Are you positive?
Because Reservoir Dogs came out in 91.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, if it was 94, then I was 15 years old. I was so immature, though. I had no idea what was
still
going on.
at 15 to see Pulp Fiction?
yeah.
He was pretty gnarly at 15.
Yeah,
Like,
I saw Pulp
freaked
Fiction
out.
in the theater when it came out, opening weekend, and laughed my ass off and disturbed everyone else in the theater because they had just saw like Siskel and Ebert say, "Oh, this is a great movie. Everybody should see it," and they didn't know what they were getting into. But I'd seen Reservoir Dogs, and that was the only videotape I owned at the time. I was in college. I had one videotape. I watched Reservoir Dogs at least once a week for like a year and a half because there was no channels I could get on TV.
Yeah.
And I used to know the entire movie by heart. So I'm like, Pulp Fiction, next movie by Tarantino, go see it.
Yeah.
Laugh my ass off. Everyone else is getting disturbed because I'm laughing. And my favorite part was when he says, "Oh man, I just shot Marvin in the face." I start laughing. People got so upset they got up and left.
Really?
Yes.
Holy shit.
I walked an audience before I ever did comedy.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great. I love that movie. That was
great.
Such a
Yeah.
great movie.
So cool.
But I love that you saw that at 15.
I saw it
Yeah.
at 15, and you know what else? I saw when I saw Paranormal Activity, the first one, which is how you and I met. We met through Oren
Pele.
Pele, yeah,
Yep.
who directed
Oren Pele.
Yeah, he directed those movies, right?
The first one he directed.
Yeah, so I went to the first one, and when I watched the first one, when it ended and they showed a little like this footage was recovered and there's no credits, I laughed so hard in the theater. I was like, this is fucking genius. Genius. I was so happy. Like, I couldn't tell you how happy I was. I was like, they committed. They really committed. They didn't go like, and now here's the music and the credits at the end. They didn't make anyone feel safe. The whole room was like freaked out. It was so wonderful. It made me so happy.
Yeah, the first one was really good.
Yeah,
It was great.
It was a really great movie.
I remember I didn't see it in a theater, but I had just got divorced, so I went from my house, like big 4-bedroom house, into a apartment, 2-bedroom apartment that was comparatively small, but so I was the only reason I'm saying size is because it scared that movie scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So someone gave me the
Wait, hang on. Is that her?
Activity.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I love the ringtone, by the way. Great
We're
ringtone.
trying to do a little hookup here. Answer.
all right.
Hey, Mindy, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good, Mindy. Hey, listen, you're live on the air right now. I hope that's okay. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. I didn't hear what you said. I'm on the air.
I said you're live on the air right now. We're recording.
I love that. Yay.
We're recording the nighttime show, the podcast, and there is a lovely, very handsome gentleman that we work with here, and you and I spoke the other day, and I was telling you there's a guy that I know that I think you would really enjoy, and I'd love to make a little introduction. Is that okay?
Oh, sounds great. It's very difficult to hear you, though.
Okay, well, can you hear me now? Is this kind of worked? You can kind of hear me now?
Yep.
All right, well, Mindy, I want to make an introduction for you to meet Brian. Brian is our sound guy and producer on the nighttime show.
Hi, Brian.
Oh, hello, Mindy. Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Just fine. I love your voice.
Oh.
Hello.
Now, Mindy, Brian is a very funny guy. He produces a stand-up show. He works on a stand-up show sometimes here at the Hollywood Improv. But aside from that, he works on a TV show called Comedy Bang Bang, which is on IFC. It's a very good show.
Of course, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Mindy, we're gonna tell Brian. Brian, will you tell her a couple things about yourself real quick on the air? Where are you? Where are you from, Brian?
Well, I'm a California native, born in Thousand Oaks, California. This is weird to me that I'm having to do this. I'm at work right now.
Brian, you're very handsome. You have a very nice beard,
Brian.
and I really enjoy you, Brian. And I really enjoy Mindy, and I just thought you guys would really enjoy each other and have a nice time and get a.
Oh, that's so nice. Are you inviting me to the nighttime show? Is this going to be a date?
It could be.
Brian,
What do you think,
trigger.
Brian? Come on, Brian, pull the fucking trigger.
Yeah, no, you know what? I would go on a date with you without a doubt, especially since Steven speaks so highly of you, and you seem like a sweet person.
Oh, thank you. The same to you.
Is that something you would consider, Mindy, going on a date with our dear friend Brian?
Sure, I would take your recommendation with the highest confidence.
There we go. We did it. We did it. All right, Mindy, I'll call you back later, and I'll set you two sweethearts up. Mindy, real quick before you get off the line, tell us about your app that you have coming out. Mindy created an app that's an amazing app, by the way.
Oh.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to talk about this on the air, though.
Okay, well, if you're not, you can tell Brian over a glass of
I'll tell you in
Chardonnay.
private. Maybe next time I'll be able to tell you.
There we
But
go.
It's very exciting. There's lots of exciting advancements happening.
Well, she's very cool. Mindy's super cool. I think you're going to really enjoy hanging out. Thanks, Mindy. You're the best. And Olive
right, you're
Garden,
the best.
Olive Garden on us. We're going to pay for Olive Garden
Oh,
for the two
wow,
of you for dinner. How about that?
Oh,
There
you
we
can
go.
eat.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later.
Nice meeting you, Mindy.
Bye, Mindy.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, you didn't have to sweeten the deal with Olive Garden.
Yeah, there we go.
That's-
Unlimited breadsticks.
Cherry on top.
Great garlic bread, apparently.
That's a terrific garlic
yeah.
bread.
maybe
Brian,
next time.
I only did that because I adore you, and I was talking to this girl the other day, and she's like, I can't find like a nice guy who like that. I was like, I know a great guy.
Next time we do the podcast, Brian can come in and talk all about that comedy Bang Bang.
Boom.
There you go.
Also, that was the
God.
most millennial hookup that I've ever been a
No
part
joke.
of in my life. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Tinder be damned. That was crazy.
A nighttime show hooks
Steven's
people
a
up.
matchmaker.
I hooked you up, Brian.
You did.
Did I not hook you up
Yeah.
with a very, very lovely girl?
Lovely. She was very lovely.
Yeah. I said to you, what do you think of this girl? You said she's very attractive.
Comic-Con last year.
Yep. And I went to her. I said, what do you think of this guy? And I paired them up. Nice. They had a very nice
We had
time
to be
together.
careful because she was there. Can we talk about
Yeah,
that?
she was on it. We don't have to say her name, but she was there on a date with a guy.
But the guy was a douchebag.
Oh, he was such a fucking douchebag.
douchey. Like douchey and douchebag in Sausage Party.
Yeah.
Total douchebag. And so then we kept hanging out all night. I mean, with Steven and
Yeah.
the douchebag and her. And he would disappear, and then I could go over and talk to her because
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to be seen next to her because it was causing problems.
Oh, so
was
he
so
could sense
great.
it too.
I was
Nice.
trying to be. I was sensitive to it.
Yeah, by the end of the night, it was over. Like their thing was over, and Brian was.
We were texting while they were on their date.
That's great.
It's never a good sign.
No.
Well, it was for him.
Well, I'm just saying that's
For
a
me.
sign of a date going bad. If the girl's texting the whole time, it's a bad sign.
I love it.
not
I love
going
it.
well.
Thanks for playing around with us, Brian, and letting that happen.
Oh no, thank you, Steven. That was a nice view. It was flattering, and I will.
She's a gorgeous, very gorgeous girl.
She liked your voice, too.
I don't doubt it. Yeah, well,
Maybe we should unplug the phone just in case my mom calls.
certainly.
All right, Brian, back to you, Brian
Yeah, we're
Witten.
like, hey,
Let's-
Brian, do you want to go on a date with Steven's mom?
Yeah, there we go. That's the next phone call. Brian Witten, let's get back to this. How did you get started in this business? Because you've been in this business for a while.
I'm old, yes.
Well, how did it get started? Where did you come from? Where were you born?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey, Maplewood, New Jersey. But I believe it or not, back in high school, we had a film class.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got into film from that. And I remember we watched The Duelist, which was Ridley Scott's first movie. And it was fucking awesome. And even back then, as like whatever I was, 14, whatever, you could tell like the cinematography and everything was amazing. And it was all handheld. And So I got into it from film class, and then I would make movies, and I loved horror movies. Like I grew up on, like Friday the 13th and the slasher movies. And American Werewolf in London, for some reason, just stuck with me. Like I loved The Dream Within a Dream. I hadn't seen that when I was like 14.
Yeah.
And so I remember in film class, I made a short film where my best friend was stalking my brother and his friend and trying to kill them, and it was a dream within a dream. But
Wow.
so on Super 8, because that's what we had when I was that age.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But then, so loved film, and then I was going to go to a law school because I figured that's what you do. You go to study law, and
right, of course.
right,
Sure.
Grew up in New Jersey. That's what you do.
Yeah, I get that.
And then my friend was going to Syracuse for film, and I was like, "What? You could go to school for film? That's great."
Yeah.
And so my parents, who were not into that idea at all, were like, "No, you need to go get a degree. Blah blah. Film, unrealistic. Blah blah blah." So I went to a school for not even the school in Bentley. It was called Bentley in Waltham, Mass, to study law, and I hated it. I fucking hated all the classes. I hated everything, and I just wanted to transfer to film. And my parents thought it was unrealistic, but with the help of my cousins and relatives, they were like, "You got to let your kid go do what he wants to do." And ultimately, I went to NYU for film and studied. And again, I was like, not again, but I was the outsider because they all wanted to make these pretentious movies.
Right.
And I just wanted to make movies that scared the fucking shit out of
Popcorn
people.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and they wanted to tell stories about their repressed childhood and coming out and whatever it was.
Terrible one-man shows.
Whatever, yes.
Right.
And
How many movies about AIDS can we take?
But so...
Real nice, Matt.
Yeah.
Way
You
to
brought it
stop.
down,
way
Matt.
to bring it down.
By the way, we didn't have AIDS.
Three movies, Matt. That's how many movies you can make.
Not to keep belittling my age, but back then there was no AIDS, so...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You could just fuck all you wanted with anything and just
Wow.
worry about, like,
God.
whatever,
Another time.
crabs or...
You went to NYU.
I wasn't getting laid, though, by the way.
You went to NYU in the 1940s? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was reading comic books. I wasn't getting
It's
laid.
theoretical
Fuck yeah.
in
Yeah,
this case, but
yeah.
Amazing.
But in any case, I loved this movie RoboCop, the first movie.
So good.
And I was wasn't it great?
Amazing.
Like,
Amazing.
I forgot
one of our podcast guests was in RoboCop.
Yep. We had Bill Farmer on the show.
Oh,
who was
yeah.
he played the reporter.
the reporter.
One of the reporters. Yeah, who did a speech or whatever.
But I remember seeing that in the theater where at the end when he goes, "Nice shooting, son. What's your name?" and he says, "Murphy," whatever. The audience stood up and applauded, which even back then I had that was like unique. There was something special about that movie where an audience would applaud like so big. It was great.
Yeah.
But so I realized I wanted to get into producing because I went there to direct, and so I just called the producer, John Davison. He produced it in a studio named Orion Pictures had made it. And I just called the switchboard. Switchboard gave me his phone number, called his phone number at his office, and we just started chatting. And it so happened he grew up in New Jersey, went to in a neighboring town of mine. He went to NYU, and he and Joe Dante, who had done Gremlins at the time, and Mike Fennell, who had produced Gremlins, they all went to NYU together. And I had reached out to John, and ultimately we just had this rapport. And he said, "Look, when you come out to LA, and I'll meet you, and I'll hook you up with Joe Dante and Mike Fennell." And so I graduated at NYU, and then went out and met with him, and we hit it off. He was developing RoboCop 2 at the time.
Oh my God.
And we hung out there and we talked about comic books, and I told him about this comic I loved called Deathlock. I don't know if any of you read it, but it was about a man and machine, which is kind of RoboCop-ian, if that's a word.
Right, sure.
Absolutely.
It is now.
Yeah.
But am I telling too many details?
No, please. This is fucking fantastic.
So we hit it off, but it was during the writer's strike. So then he hooked me up with Joe Dante and Mike Fennell, and Joe was directing The Burbs. So I went and hung out like on the Universal backlot while they were shooting it with Tom Hanks, and Bruce Dern was there, and this is how naive I was. We were talking before about women. But Bruce is like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I don't remember. It was 20, whatever. And he goes, "Oh, I have a daughter your age. You should meet her." Like, I just met him. You seem like a nice kid. And I didn't realize how hot his daughter was.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But I never. Anyway, nothing ever happened. But I.
Oh my God.
But it was just amazing. So I hit it off with them, and they said, "Look, we can help you get a job, but you can't do it from Jersey. You have to come out here."
Yeah.
So that was like in October of whatever it was. I then moved out in the following February, and then I would go hang out with John at his office, and it was during the writer's strike, so no one was hiring.
Right.
So, and it so happened my best friend was in Long Beach, so all we would do is get stoned and go to the beach, and my parents paid for it, so it was kind of fun, right? I'd never been out of the state as a kid. But then, anyway, ultimately, I PA'd on a movie, and which was called The Horror Show that Sean Cunningham, who I loved, Friday the 13th, was the producer of.
Yeah.
And then later in life, I worked with him on Friday the 13th, Freddy versus Jason, when I was at New Line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I worked for John Davison on RoboCop 2 when the strike was over, and we had hired Frank Miller, who was one of my icons as a comic book writer artist.
Oh my God, so cool.
Which was great. And then
what did you do with it? What did you hire him to do?
So he wrote RoboCop.
Amazing.
RoboCop 2. RoboCop 2.
Right, yeah.
Which was amazing. So I worked for John for like 2 years, and we shot in Houston, which was a great experience and fun. You know, as a kid from Jersey, and now I was proving my parents wrong. But
like in your head the whole time, you're just picturing everyone else back home studying law, and you're like, oh, like,
yeah, or
goodness.
exactly. And here I am having fun, like taking dolly tracks off the street before the sun comes up because we have to get off the street or there's penalties. And it was literally everyone would just. It wasn't. Later in my career, everyone was just all working for the better good of the movie. It didn't matter who you were. Even John, the producer, was helping to do things. Mm-hmm. Later in life, you realize. Not later. I was never like that. But there were jobs, and you did your job, and you didn't really whatever. But
right, yeah.
But it was a great learning experience, and it was awesome. But John, but John was like a mom and pop guy who made one movie and then would try to get another movie, but the studio would only pay for him when they were doing something. So I didn't have a job. But anyway, while we were doing RoboCop, I had a RoboCop 2. I loved this director named Stephen Hopkins. He had directed a very cool Australian movie, which I can't remember the name of it was, but it was kids that are in they break into a department store, and they stay there overnight to get laid and have fun and drink, and they don't realize there's a security guard there that's insane and they can't get out.
Oh, my God.
So Steven went on to direct one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved him as a director. I was John's assistant, but he didn't treat me as an assistant.
Sure.
So I kept pushing for Steven to direct RoboCop 2, and I became friends with his agent. So then when everything was rolling down on RoboCop 2, Steven now was directing Predator 2. I needed a job.
Shit.
I had always idolized Joel Silver, thought his movies were amazing. And so Hollywood is about relationships.
Yeah, totally.
It so happened that Steven was doing Predator 2. The agent, Lloyd Segan, was still my friend. And I said, I need a job. And he said, well, guess what? Joel Silver's partner, Michael Levy, needs an assistant. Why don't I hook you guys, connect, whatever. So it was, also to, and also the editor of Predator 2 was this guy, Mark Goldblatt, who's a phenomenal editor. He's edited like Terminator 2, a bunch of Jim Cameron movies, but he had done RoboCop. So they both were whispering in Michael Levy's ear, you should meet with this guy, Brian. So I went, and I remember meeting with Michael on the set of Predator 2, where there was some big explosion scene where the Predator at the end, where there's a crater and whatever, downtown LA. And so I'm walking with this guy who's the complete opposite of John. John was this like mom and pop nice guy. Mm-hmm. And like I was his assistant, but I didn't answer his phone. I didn't run errands for him. He treated me more of a creative guy.
Right.
So Michael's walking with me in he's like Lurch from Addams Family.
Right, yeah.
And he's very manic, and we're walking around the perimeter of the set, and he's like, so you're used to this and this, you could be yelled at, you could be screamed at and things and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, sure, which I had never,
None of that ever happened.
Right, yeah.
But I just lied and said yes, and then I went to work for Michael, and again, am I telling too?
Mm-mm.
So Michael, what I didn't know is you as an assistant, you kind of lie. Like,
Yeah.
So, but I was so naive, like I couldn't. Michael was frantic, and so there was so much going on. He would say, "Well, did you send the bottle of Niagara to Steven?" And Niagara water, that is, because
Right.
and I had forgotten, and I would go, "Oh, I forgot," and he would scream at me. So I had 2 tours of duty with Michael. The second tour of duty, he fired me, and then I came back. I would lie and go, "Oh yeah, I sent Steven the bottle of Niagara," and then I would go and do it. But I didn't realize that when I worked for him. So I worked for him for like 5, and he's like at a swimming with. Do you ever see Swimming with Sharks?
Yeah, of course.
So like my buddy George Wang directed it, and we both were assistants at Silver Pictures, and Michael was like that guy, and Michael would throw things. Anyway, so I lasted 5 months, came back, I worked for Michael, and he would throw things at me and scream at me, and like it was just crazy.
Oh my God.
It was like out of Swimming with Sharks.
Yeah.
And like I remember he loved bagels with. He wanted a bagel with cheese. Now he's a Jew. I'm a Jew. If someone says a bagel with cheese, bagel with cream cheese?
Yeah, bagel with cream cheese.
So
Yeah.
I go right. I toast the bagel. I come back and I give him the bagel with cream cheese, and he's like, "I didn't ask for that. I want a bagel with cheese. I wanted cheese. This is cream cheese." He takes the fucking bagel, rips it in half, and throws it at me.
Amazing.
It hits my shirt and hangs there on my shirt, stuck. and I'm looking at him, and I'm being.
It's like you played ring toss with your nipple.
Right? And I'm looking down at my shirt, and the bagel falls, and I go, "What the fuck?" And he goes, "I asked for it with cheese. I didn't want cream cheese. I wanted melted cheese." And then I left and made him this fucking thing. But in any case, I took a lot of shit from him.
Do you know who Shelley Berman is?
No, but that name sounds familiar.
Is that who it
The
is?
comic.
The comedian who played Larry David's father on Curb.
Yeah.
Is that right? I got the right name?
Yes.
So my first job ever in the entertainment business was being his assistant at La Jolla Playhouse in San Diego for a play. And they said to me, "Whatever you do, anything he needs, you handle it. Don't let anybody else." And I was like 15, 16. I was young. I was a young guy. I was about 16. And they were like, "Whatever you do, don't let any of the women handle stuff for him. You handle everything. Don't let the other the PAs or whatever handle it." I go, "Yeah, no problem, whatever." And he turned to me and he was like, "Can you do me a favor? Can you go and get me?" He was old then. He's always been old. He goes, "Can you do me a favor? Can you get me a nice cup of coffee with sugar and some milk in it, maybe a little bit?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem, no problem." And I go over and I go to one of the women. I go, "Hey, I need to get a cup of coffee for Shelley, and it has to have sugar in it and a little bit of milk." And she goes, "Okay." And she puts like a bunch of sugar, and then she puts milk. She hands it to me. I walk over to him. And I go, "Here you go." And he goes, he drinks it. He goes, "What is this? What kind of fucking shit is this? What did you put in this?" I go, "Well, I asked this lady," and he goes, "Who did this?" I'm like, I asked this lady to help me because I didn't know how to do it right. I had never used those young guy. I didn't even use the coffee machine like that before. And he goes, "Who did it?" I go, I think Lisa did it. He goes, "Lisa, come over here." Lisa comes over. She goes, "Yes, can I help you?" And he threw the coffee at her. Hot coffee. Threw it at her fucking body. Went all over. She screamed, runs out. He goes, "These fucking people, these stupid women, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I can't work with these people." And he stormed off. And I was apologizing. He's like, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. These stupid women." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I literally learned like afterwards that like he hates women. Like he's the most anti-feminine woman guy. Like the guy just hates ladies. He won't deal with them. He won't speak to them. Like
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's gnarly. Yeah. I was a shitty PA. I worked as a PA on one time. It was on a TV show called Chocolate News.
Oh, yeah.
David Allen Greer. David Allen Greer. And it was, they put that show on the air to kind of help President Obama get elected the first time because he like every like show would be talking about Obama and how he should be elected and stuff. And on my like third day, they asked me to bring to go get sandwiches for the producers, and I went and bought the sandwiches, and I ate 2 of the sandwiches on the way back to the set. And the producers were like, where do these sandwiches go? And I was like, I ate them in the car. And they were like, you need to go home. And they fucking fired me and sent me home. I got fired like second day.
They should know better than to send you on a food run.
Yeah, come on.
Like you get hungry on your way.
Were they good?
They were great sandwiches.
There you go.
Come on.
So it was worth it.
It was. They were from Cantor's. They were very nice sandwiches.
Nice.
Come on.
Yeah.
Am I going to eat a couple sandwiches?
Yeah.
Give me a break. So how did you go from being I guess
Assistant thing.
like an assistant to rising up to where you've run like basically, right? Like kind of
I was
run
the
studios.
Executive vice president.
Yeah, that's
and,
insane.
But, yeah.
How does that happen?
So from Joel, then I became Joel's assistant, and I was into the Hong Kong movies before anyone else, like John Woo and Chow Yun-fat and Jet Li, and
I used to watch all those Jackie Chan movies. I had a roommate from Hong Kong, and he'd get them on Laserdisc.
Yes.
And he'd bring them back to the U.S., and I saw, like, Drunken Master 2 out here back when it was called something different. Well, I think they called it Drunken Master here, but it was Drunken Master 2, and everything's just subtitled, or like Thunderbolt and movies like
that was great.
That are great, and I got to see all these things like on Laserdisc years before they came out on, like, he's like a feeble old man by the time they came out here in the U.S. where he can't do this stuff anymore. But
My God, that's crazy.
yeah, those are great.
Did you ever see like Police Story 2?
Of course.
Yeah, right?
Police Story 1, Police Story 2,
Yeah.
3, and 4.
It was great.
All of them.
Or Operation Condor?
Operation Condor, love that movie, and Condor 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, he got all those, and he brought
They
over
were awesome.
Yeah, those are great movies.
Pat Labor. We watched all of too, like this weird anime that was about robots fighting crime. And
Wow.
yeah,
I remember when we were doing...
I didn't get laid in college. Is what I'm saying.
All you had was that and whatever that and what was it? Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir
You had, like,
Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs.
Well, I didn't have those. See, he had all those on Laserdisc, but then we had to go to our friend's house who had the Laserdisc player, so we couldn't watch the Laserdiscs at our place.
Oh, sure.
And our friend's house is where we had our weekly Friday night Dungeons and Dragons game,
Nice.
which we played every Friday night when I was 21 years old.
You know what? Just to drive it home, when laser discs were out and like a thing, that's right when my parents got divorced, and my dad said if my son can't learn how to use the Laserdisc player, I'm taking it back. And I tried to learn how to use it for like a week straight, and I couldn't figure out how to make. I couldn't get the connection to run to the TV. And then he fucking came and picked up the Laserdisc player. Such a bastard! And he took my Star Wars Laserdisc and everything. He's such a fucking asshole. The worst father.
Terrible.
He's on line one. I would never do that.
Hey, you on line one? You piece of shit. No, it's all right. So, anyways, all right. So you're working on the John Woo movies and working on this.
So no, I just got Joel into John Woo and stuff. But
Got it.
But so then I became at the time friends with Rob Liefeld, who had just left Marvel and was at Image Comics, and he was like 22. And it was a big thing back then. I mean, when they all left, it was him, Todd McFarlane. I can't remember everyone, but But so Rob was like on commercials. In any case, I got Rob to meet with Joel because he was the hottest thing, at the time in that space. And so I became friends with Rob. And when I left Joel, I became Rob's producing partner. And so
cool.
So we like set up a TV series at Fox Animation
What was
when
it
they were
called?
doing the X-Men. It never got on air, but it was called Youngblood. And then we set a feature at a TriStar called Prophet, which was based on one of Rob's. Rob had a comic book at Amblin called Dooms 4, which was his really cool. But so I was doing that, and then also Rob, because he couldn't really pay me. He paid me some money to be an executive, but he couldn't pay me that much. He let me write comic books, and then paid me like these great page rates to make up for it.
My God.
And now I'm writing comic books with these amazing artists.
What
and
were you writing? What kind of comic books were you writing?
I wrote Chapel, which was one of the characters that was in Youngblood, who was awesome. And he was in Spawn. He's the guy that he kills Al. I forgot the guy's name. Al Simmons, and helps create Spawn.
Very cool.
But so then I wrote comic books for Rob. But in any case, Rob at the time, Rob's main focus was comic books because he would make tons of money on a comic book a month. And this was back when comic books would sell millions of copies.
Oh, yeah.
Every month.
Yeah.
And so when we would set up a feature, it would take months to negotiate deals. So Rob wasn't really seeing money for a long time, and it was a fraction of what he was getting as a creator and owner.
Yeah.
But in any case, so that thing drifted along, and then that same guy, Lloyd Segan, who I mentioned before to you guys, who helped get me the job with Michael Levy, I was still friends, and he said, there's this guy, Michael DeLuca at New Line, who's looking for someone like you, an executive that loves comic books, sci-fi, horror. You should meet him. And when I worked for Joel, the studio was really the enemy. You didn't like the studio. They were sooty and not really cool. And so anyway, I went in and I met with Michael DeLuca, and he was like me. We were both in our 20s. He was wearing jeans. He had a Mortal Kombat, stand-up game in his office, comic books, video games. And my interview was, this is very dorky, but my interview with him was basically talking about Spider-Man issue 120 and 121. Spider-Man issue 120 was the death of Gwen Stacy, who was Spider-Man's girlfriend, and Spider-Man issue 121 was the death of the Green Goblin. And back then, when they died,
that was
they
huge.
Died.
Yeah.
It wasn't like now where they come back and...
Yeah, like when Superman died, and you're like, oh, and then 3 months later, like, oh, here's Superman again. You're like,
Here's a new Superman issue, and you're like, what?
But back then, they were like dead.
Yeah.
Or maybe I was just a kid and I didn't realize it.
I remember. I mean, for God's sake, when Superman died in the Doomsday and those, I still have my copies of those, and they're still sealed because I was told that they're going to be worth money. You know what I mean? Like, they're not, of course, they're not.
They
But
lied to you.
Yeah, of course. Just like I had comic book cards, in the cases and stuff. But yeah, that's that was a huge deal. And then nowadays it's like, man.
So you start working at New Line.
Yeah, so then Mike wanted to hire me immediately. I was like, oh, this guy's cool. He's not anything like, he's not a sooty guy. And then I worked there for 5 years. So.
Very cool. And then what was the first project you worked on there?
Yeah.
The first, there were things that they gave, like that were assigned to me. Like Spawn was already in development, so I took over that, and Mortal Kombat 2. But the first thing I guess you would call bringing in was The Wedding Singer.
So cool.
The Wedding Singer was was a pitch that I pursued and brought in. So
how did that go down? Where did that get started?
Well, I remember vividly. It was so. What happens is, to look for projects as an executive, you have to call agents and ask for, you're going out with a project. Can you read something, whatever? And I remember I was calling this agent who covered New Line, because what would happen is agents would cover studios and make sure you knew what was coming out. Sure. And this agent, Adam Cantor, he was at CA. He represented Tim Hurley. He was a writer who wrote Happy Gilmore with Sandler. And they said they had this new project. And I was like, oh, great. And then I went to DeLuca, and DeLuca was like, yes, I wanted to do Happy Gilmore. I couldn't get it, blah, blah, blah. Get us this project. So I kept calling Adam Cantor saying, I want to hear this pitch, because we knew that they had a pitch for The Wedding Singer. It wasn't called that. I don't remember what it was called. And so then I also knew that Adam Sandler's agent was this guy, Adam Bennett, at CAA. So you have to pursue, because your passion gets them to come to you before other people.
Yeah.
And so I remember I kept pursuing, and they were having the premiere of Happy Gilmore at Universal. And Adam Cantor's office called the day of the premiere and said, we got you 2 tickets to the premiere. And my ex-wife and I raced up to the movie. We were in the front row, and I remember I was in the front row sitting like Rob Schneider was a few seats down, and just fucking laughed from beginning to end of Happy Gilmore. And then after went to the party, and then the agent introduced me to Tim Hurley. I never got to meet Sandler that night.
Were you at like nervously looking over at Sandler, and then you look over Rob Schneider and he goes, "You can do it." That should be the story. I don't know if that's it.
That's it.
That's the story.
Really
it's a good
call.
story.
That was great.
But and then I remember I left. So I never met Sandler that night, and I never saw Adam Bennett, Sandler's agent. But at midnight, I called CAA and left a message on Adam Bennett's voicemail saying, I love the movie, blah, 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 blah. And I gave my impassioned thing, how we have to hear it. And then the next day, they went and pitched The Wedding Singer to Universal, who had done Happy Gilmore. And then they came and pitched it to my boss, Michael DeLuca, and I. and Sandler came in and they pitched us it was actually the wedding singer was a wedding singer whose same concept. He's jilted at the altar, but he's a wedding singer on a cruise ship.
Oh.
And on the cruise ship, he realizes the wedding he's about to perform at is Julia Guglia's wedding. He didn't realize that. And ultimately, it changed around clearly from to the finish thing.
Sure.
But then, so he pitched it to us in a room, and we bought it. And so then
Now, when you say you bought it, was it? Did you say in the room, we want to do this movie, we're going to do it, and
we're going to do
gonna
it?
Buy it?
Yep.
Wow.
And then we just start immediately negotiating. When I say we, are business affairs people with CAA and Sandler's
All
lawyer.
the lawyers do their lawyer stuff.
And then figure it out.
Were you guys so, like, I know I don't want this to come off disrespectful in any possible way, but like if Sandler came in, if I was running a studio and Sandler came in and was like, I want to do a movie and it's about a dog that eats balloons, I'd be like, I'm in. Like, because it's Sandler, I would be
But at
super
that
in.
time,
But at that time, was he at that
Sandler.
level yet
No.
where you were like, oh my God, whatever he pitches,
because
we're
he'd just done
in?
Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, and that's
Exactly.
it, right?
That was it. He had done
Wow.
Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and DeLuca was upset that he lost Happy Gilmore because he wanted, I don't remember the exact story, but he loved the script. He always loved Sandler and Billy Madison and on SNL.
Right.
And so he wanted to make it, and I believe there was, Universal made it, but there was a moment where Universal was balking, I think, and DeLuca said, I'll greenlight it for whatever money, and then they, ultimately, it got Universal to step up and greenlight it.
God.
And so he always loved Sandler. So when we heard the pitch, it was like, and Sandler intentionally came in and said, look, I've done Billy Madison, I've done Happy Gilmore. They're, goofy comedies. I want to take it to the next level. I want to do something more realistic and still with my humor, but like beyond me playing that guy.
That's such a heartwarming movie too.
Yeah.
I've seen every single Adam Sandler movie that was in the theater. I've seen it in the theater. Every single one.
You even made
Including,
me go see Jack and Jill.
I even made him go see Jack and Jill, and I made him go see Bucky Larson.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
like I've
nice.
taken,
Nick Schwartz,
I've made it a thing to go see every produced Sandler movie in the theater, whether he's in it or it's just something that he's working on, because I love Adam Sandler, and even when it's bad or ridiculous, it's still great. Like I still love it. It's
Bucky
still
Larson wasn't great.
Yeah, well, Bucky Larson was a hard one.
Maybe
but,
you didn't get it, man.
There was one laugh in Bucky Larson delivered by Kevin Nealon.
Yeah,
when
but
he came in and yelled at him.
you know
That was
what?
it.
Swartzen is
hard.
He's great, though, as
Swartzen's
Bucky. He's such a
amazing. We
wacky
love
character,
Nick Swartzen.
yeah.
Swartzen's done our live show, and he was great, and he's such a great guy. But that movie
That was a
is
rough
not
movie.
good.
Yeah, but he knows that
Yeah.
too. That's okay though. But yeah, that's got to be. That must have been insane. Once you guys had him, and once he was on board. What happened next? How did that work out?
Well, then Tim was going to write it with him, and then we just started. They started writing the script, and but what was great is I remember we got the first draft, which was still on the cruise ship, and I can't remember why we thought that we got it off the cruise ship and made him be a wedding singer in his town, but it was amazing because it was also very new to me at the time. Like I worked for Joel. I was an assistant basically before New Line.
Wow.
And I would go to Sandler's house when they were writing the script and read pages, and it was all very collaborative because we weren't kids because we were just kids trying to make something fun.
How old were you around this time? Do you mind saying?
No, 90. I would have been 25, 65. Yeah, 25.
What was his
Nice. Am I doing right?
What was his house like at that time? Because now it's just it's like a military complex. Now.
He rented a place. It was him and I think Alan Covert and Jack Giraputo was a producing partner, and there was one other person. And he was renting this house up in Bel Air on Ferrari, and I have to say, one of the craziest parties I ever went to was at the house, and it was hysterical because it was everybody you could imagine, but it was before, like Brad Pitt was there before he blew up, and Jerry Seinfeld was there, and Jennifer Aniston. I mean, and by the way, every comedian you could ever imagine was there. Everyone was there having fun, and Chris Farley had used the downstairs, the bathroom on the floor, and it was shag carpeting, and then you imagine shag carpeting, couch, bathroom over to whatever. And the toilet, I'm not making this up, overflowed. And the toilet was overflowing into the downstairs. It was crazy.
God.
And everyone's just trashed. And I remember I was out by the pool and I was just lying on a lounge chair. And I was just but
That sounds great.
it was fun.
That's so great. That's
It's a long
amazing.
time ago.
Did you ever meet Farley outside of that?
Yeah, I met him once or twice with Sandler.
Wow.
Can I ask
It's very
you,
funny.
Since you're coming from comic books and horror movies and loving all these things, but the first thing it sounds like that you really like was your own was this comedy like this. Are you coming from it of like, all right, whatever's funny, that's what I want to be in this, or are you coming at it from the producer who's like, well, we need this to be made, so here's how we have to adjust?
Well, again, I didn't know what it was like to be an executive, so I didn't know, like, when Michael hired me to do sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, that I just was looking for projects I liked. So, like, when I heard, I was a big fan of Sandler and loved comedy, so that's a funny idea, so let's pursue it. Or American History X. I mean, clearly, I'm the guy, at New Line I mentioned Mortal Kombat 2, Spawn, Wedding Singer, Dark City, Final Destination, though that was after American History X. But I was doing all the horror and comic book stuff.
Yeah.
And then I read, which I still remember reading, my ex-wife and I were living in an apartment, and this sounds so dorky, but it had, it was, where you had to go to a laundry room to do stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we had just got an upright washer, laundry, whatever, dryer, what are they called? Laundry, whatever. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so it was a Friday night, and I had scripts to read, and I was so psyched that I didn't have to run to the fucking laundry room and put quarters in and do laundry. I just stayed in on Friday night. She was out of town and did laundry. And I was like, this is awesome. I don't have to leave the apartment. I do laundry.
So great.
And I'm reading scripts. And also a funny thing that night was, so my friend Marty Bowen, who was an assistant to an agent at UTA, he and his buddies rented had this awesome house up on, I think it was Sunset Plaza. And he called me that day and he goes, dude, we're shooting this movie with Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. Do you want to Swingers? Do you want to come be an extra? There's going to be a lot of chicks and alcohol. And do you want to be an extra? And I'm like, no, I'm going to hang out tonight and read. But I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I didn't know I could have been in Swingers.
Because they weren't
my
those guys.
God.
So, Dark City.
Oh,
when
wait,
that-
no, hang on a second. Before you get to Dark City, we got to go back. I have one question for you. Do you mind telling us a little tiny bit about Drew Barrymore and Sandler and what him bringing her to the, like, what that was like getting Sandler to bring Drew in?
Sure.
Is that okay to talk about?
Yeah. But by the way, one thing to the American history, why I mentioned American History X is, so that night, instead of going to the party and staying home and doing laundry, I had read this script called American History X because I had met Dave McKenna, the writer at New Line, and he said, this script, no one's ever made this script of mine. And I sat home that night and read it, and I cried at the end. I was like, this is an amazing story about these two brothers and racism. And I had my younger brother had a addiction problem in high school and college, and I could relate to totally different thing. This is about race, but like, this brother relationship, and I read it and I was like, this is fucking amazing, and it needs to be told. Yeah. And so that anyway, that night I didn't go
Such
hang
an
out
unbelievable
and
movie.
hang out with and be in Swingers, but I did read American History X, which was amazing.
You know what's really crazy is the actor who played the big fat guy in that movie.
Ethan Suplee.
He's
funny.
Yeah, Ethan Suplee.
I'm sure he really appreciates it.
No, it's fine. He's not fat anymore. And here's the interesting little weird piece of that story. Ethan Suplee was 450, 500 pounds, somewhere in there when he did that movie. And he went to this trainer in Burbank called Eric the Trainer. And Eric the Trainer helped him lose 300 pounds. Wow. And it took him like 2 years, but he didn't lose that weight because he was on My Name is Earl and all sorts of stuff. He didn't lose that weight through surgery. He lost that weight through working out. Yeah. And that Ethan came to me when I was trying to lose weight and was like, you should go and work out with this trainer. And I lost 100 pounds with Eric, which is fucking great.
nice.
And now I'm back with him. I go every week, and I'm back trying to not not be the fattest person I know.
Nice.
But yeah, he changed Ethan's life, and Ethan is amazing. Such a great actor too.
He was great in the movie.
He really, and like he was in a bunch of movies, and then he's continued to act and continue to work and stuff. But anyways, let's go back. We got to talk about Wedding Singer.
So Drew, what was we were looking for someone to play opposite Sandler, and he had originally wanted the woman, I forgot her name, that was in Happy Gilmore.
It's Pete Sampras's wife.
Yeah,
and I forget her name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Pulling it up.
Isn't she on Modern Family, the wife?
Oh, the wife.
Oh,
sure.
You're talking about Julie Bowen?
Yeah, I think it was Julie
okay.
Bowen.
Oh,
wow.
yeah, I was thinking of the girl from Happy Gilmore.
I had no idea.
I think it was Julie. Am I getting confused?
I think you're right.
Julie
Yeah,
Bowen.
that could be.
She was in Happy Gilmore?
Pulling it up.
Hold on.
Pulling it
We're going
up.
to pull this up.
All right, Wedding Singer.
All right. Yeah, we got it. We have thumbs up.
Yep.
Julie Bowen. Julie Bowen for 5 points, folks.
Great.
All right.
So because they had worked together, so Adam, as we've learned later, likes working with people he knows.
Yeah.
And
she was engaged to David Spade back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I only know that because Spade was on Howard Stern and he talked about how he blew it and he should have married Julie Bowen when he had the chance. And then,
He had his own wedding
Whatever.
singer.
yeah,
He would have. But
he said that while pushing Playmates off of him.
exactly.
All right, now keep going, please.
So that was, they were looking at her, and we had there was a division of New Line called Fine Line that made more of the prestigious movies, and they had made a 2-picture deal with Drew Barrymore, and she had done, I don't remember if it was Gun Crazy or some movie, and then there was another movie they were supposed to make, but they didn't make it, so they paid her, I don't remember what the monetary fee, they owed her money.
Right.
So she was going to get paid regardless.
Okay.
And they said, why not get Drew Barrymore to be,
We have to pay her for a movie that...
Yeah, and we're fans of her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we were, no one didn't like her. And so I remember talking to Sandler, and I was like, hey, dude, she's great, and he had liked her. Like, the idea of the girl from E.T. grown up, and because at the time, Drew had been doing these more, she was going against type, these darker roles.
Yeah.
And so then Sandler went and met with her, and they had a love fest, and that was it. And then we went and used Drew in the movie, and they were great.
Yeah. Now she's done 3 or 4 Sandler movies.
A few of them,
Yeah. She's whenever they team up, it's awesome. It's like you get that Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan feel, which is
She was
nice.
great.
She
Always
is
so
great.
nice too, and
Yeah, they did that movie together recently where they go
Blended?
Blended, which was a great movie.
really funny.
Do they still do 3-picture deals and 2-picture deals and things like that? Do you see that happen as often? I mean, at Netflix they do it. Like they're doing it with Sandler right now. But they gave him a 6-picture deal or
I think
5-picture.
four, but
do you see it very often?
I don't know. I've been on the other side, but not really. I don't think people they don't do that.
More
like,
just free agent every time.
yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I mean, like when I was at New Line, we did The Wedding Singer with Sandler, which we loved, and then because of other circumstances, we didn't end up doing The Waterboy, which was a mistake. And then we did. Then after the Waterboy, then we made like a 2-picture deal with him and did we did Little Nicky with him, which
So fun.
We were a bunch of Jews making it. We thought it was funny. Yeah. And then you don't realize when you go to test a movie like that Middle America, I mean, I don't know if you guys like the movie or not, but they don't like making fun of the devil, of God, of any of that. It's just a no-no.
Really?
Across the board, people, regardless of it, they did not like that.
Wow.
You would think by then he would have so much, he would be trusted to know that you're making something funny. So just be open to it.
But that's what I mean. They don't like, religion is one thing people don't like to be
Yeah, they just don't like jokes about it. No matter how good they are, they don't like.
I mean, if you
about it.
and I didn't. If you go back and look in time, like Roseanne Barr did She Devil at the height of her career, bombed. If you look at
movie,
any comedies, I shouldn't say any, but comedies that deal with the devil and
the only one I can
religion.
think of that Middle America liked was "Oh God, You Devil," which was very mild.
Yeah, but that was really. Yeah, it was George Burns.
And it was just like, oh, he's an old guy. Okay, that's funny.
Wow, you bet, sweetie.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah, or Defending Your Life, kind of.
Oh, that's such a good
that's a great movie.
But God's not in it.
Money.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are more like not really going for the Middle America, like
mass appeal.
Yeah, blue collar guy in Ohio. That's not who those movies are made for.
Yeah. But I loved Little Nicky. Yeah. I'm biased, of course.
Okay, so now around that same time, like pretty much like one of your next projects was Dark City, right?
Yes.
In that same era. Right. Now that movie, I love, and I only really found out about it because Roger Ebert really championed that movie. Like he loved that movie, did the DVD commentary for that movie. Like he would go to film festivals and do a live commentary if they would play Dark City. Like that's one of his favorite movies of all time. And I remember on the 10 best list that year, Roger Ebert named it his favorite movie of the year. And that was the last year Gene Siskel was alive and did a 10 best list. And he named Babe 2 Pig in the City his favorite movie of the year, which was also an excellent movie. And Dark City, I think, was like number 5 on his list. I mean, it was like really critically acclaimed, but it didn't make money at the box office at all. Like it sort of bombed out, right?
Yeah.
But it was a great film. How did you find that one?
So with that one, we were fans not again, but DeLuca and I loved Alex Proyas. We had seen Crow and loved Crow, and I believe I'm not sure, but maybe Mike tried to do the Crow at New Line, didn't happen. But so Robert Newman, Alex's agent at the time, we kept offering him movies. That's what it was. We would offer him movie after, and he'd keep passing and passing. And Robert said, "Look, all he wants to do is this movie Dark City, but it's at Fox." And I said, "Okay, well, why don't we do it?" And it was stuck at 20th Century Fox. And so DeLuca had read it years earlier and always loved it. We read the whatever the latest draft was. We loved it, and the problem with Fox, this happens. Not like the problem, but they don't only make it with a certain actor.
Sure.
I don't remember who the actors were back in that day that meant something to the box office. And Proyas's vision was, it's an alien world. I want to find someone that's not like Brad Pitt or Matt Damon or whoever the name was at the time, Tom Cruise, because if it's
too pretty.
And you know that guy and you'll feel comfortable in the world, and he didn't want you to feel comfortable.
Interesting.
It's supposed to, I mean, it's creepy right from the start, that movie. It starts off creepy and it just gets creepier.
Yeah. So that was his intent, and Fox only wanted to make it with, some sort of name. Yeah. So we agreed. Oh, and then also Proyas he and his partner had the rights to one of the most phenomenal British movies called Quatermass in the Pit.
Okay.
It was a BBC movie. BBC had released it. And everyone from Spielberg had tried to get the remake rights, and other people. It was part of the Hammer Library. I don't know if you guys know it, but it was all these great horror movies, sci-fi. Brian over there knows it, right? Yeah. And so he had those rights. So we said, okay, we love Proyas's Dark City. We'll make that, but we have to get this too, because that's we want to make a 2-picture deal.
Sure, yeah.
And so, but the big problem was Proyas would only make it he wanted to make it with new people. So we had this laundry list of people we would make it with. And I have not thought about this in years, but one of the names, believe it or not, for the Murdoch role that was on it was David Letterman. Like, it was...
What?
I swear.
Wow.
It was such a endless list of names because he didn't want to go to another studio that said, oh, we want to make it, but now we'll only make it with these 6 people. Mm-hmm. So we had to give him the opposite of 6 people. We had to give him a laundry list of like anyone we would make the movie with.
Holy crap!
And
David Letterman.
I remember David Letterman's name was on it.
Cabin Boy. See if he'd be right for your film.
Oh my God, that's phenomenal!
I forgot about that.
Wow, that's really interesting,
that's
man.
Funny.
I love that.
But so that's how Dark City came over there, and we,
So how does that get negotiated? Like it's at Fox.
Yeah.
Like how do you get Fox to let you make that movie? How does that work?
So they it was Robert was at I think ICM at the time, his agent, and so I don't know if they had a certain amount of time to do. Oh, I think also so they just pushed Fox because Fox had it for I don't remember how many years. Maybe there was a time I don't remember the exact mechanics of it, but we also agreed with Fox that we wouldn't make it with whoever the names were, the Matt Damons of the world.
Okay, so they had their 6 guys. You're like, okay, we'll make it, but we won't do it with these 6 guys.
There's more than that,
anyways.
But yes,
yeah.
So we agreed, and so they, and by the way, in an honorable fashion, which isn't always the case in Hollywood. Sometimes they'd rather hold projects and never let someone else make them because they don't want to, like the famous. You've heard the famous Home Alone story, right? Or no?
No, please.
Oh, so Home Alone was originally at Warner Brothers. They developed it forever at Warner Brothers, and I don't remember I don't remember what they wanted to make it for at the time. Say it wasn't that much back then, but say it was 12 or 15 million.
Sure.
They wouldn't make it. So John Hughes got them to put it in turnaround, and then they made it at Fox and became a huge thing.
Right.
And so after that, like people would rather not put a movie in turnaround because they don't want to look.
They don't want somebody
bad.
else to get it. Well, I think they're like.
There's a few movies like that where they did.
Yeah, because I think people now, these executives, they're like, if this gets made by somebody else and it makes a lot of money, I lose my job.
That happened with Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
Whoever, what studio, I don't know what studio that was, but whoever developed that movie all the way to the end then decided to just say, it's not going to be a thing.
Yep.
And then they had shot and made the whole movie at that point. And they were just like, we're not going to release it. Let's let it go somewhere else.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's a real
Stranger
tricky,
Things went to like 15, 20 places supposedly, right? And then Netflix grabbed Stranger Things.
Such
and
a
then
great series.
That is, it's
right?
amazing.
Yeah, fine. I'll watch it if you guys will all shut up about it.
Are you
Finally.
serious?
Come
You
on,
haven't watched it?
No, not yet.
Get the fuck out of here, Matt.
Like that's a show where it's like, all right, at this point, it's got to be the best show I've ever seen in my entire life to live up to all the hype that all these people have been talking about.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Come on,
Jesus, Matt. Are you serious?
I haven't watched it yet.
I made Mike Black watch it, and you know how Mike...
I have Star Trek reruns to watch on BBC
God,
America.
you've watched every Star Trek episode. We know this from Brandon Braga. We know.
I listened to that. You were like blowing Brannon on the show.
The greatest.
Yeah, Brandon was
Look,
like...
If Brandon Braga wants a handy, I'll give him a handy. That's how much I respect him.
Absolutely. It got to a point where Brandon Braga was like, I believe it was this episode, and Matt would be like, actually, you're wrong.
Well,
it's this. And because Matt knows. Matt knows.
Well, what you're talking about is he's like, well, I think Gene Roddenberry, when he created the holodeck for Next Generation, was like, well, actually, the holodeck kind of debuted on the Star Trek animated series in 1973 when they had the Rec Room in the first episode of the animated series.
You got to give him credit, though. He knows his shit.
I love that. That's awesome.
Whatever.
You need to watch Stranger Things.
I will watch it.
Here's the plan. The plan, Brian, is we're trying to get one of the kids from the show
I will watch
to
the
come
show
do the podcast
before we get the kid on the podcast.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Some of them
That's
can
a good
sing
idea.
too. Like,
yeah,
sing
some
on
of them can
Broadway
sing.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
some of them are very, very
Unbelievable.
talented. Those are insanely talented kids, though.
It was great because they went for like he hasn't seen it, but they really went for kids of the time that make sense.
Yeah.
It all worked instead of just getting a bunch of pretty people. They all worked perfectly for their. Not that they aren't pretty; they're good-looking kids. But
and even casting fucking Winona Ryder who was big in that time period, and putting her right back in, and she kills it. She's great. Everybody's great on that thing. It made me. It's every once in a while I'll watch something that makes me angry that I'm not in it, and that happened with Orange Is the New Black when I watched the first season. Gary, I'm forgetting his name. One of the guards and me are friends on Twitter, and immediately I was like, I want to be a guard on that show so fucking bad. Why am I not a guard on that show? Like, I would be great. Why have I not even been seen for that show? Like, that's insane. I would love to do that show. And Taryn Manning, who's on Orange Is the New Black, and I grew up together. We know each other from junior high school from back in the day. Wow. So I was like, man, oh man, that would be so fucking cool to do that. And then when Stranger Things aired, and it doesn't happen all the time. It's not like I'm sitting around watching movies going, why am I not in a thing? But every once or twice a year, I'll see a project where I'll go,
damn.
Oh, man, I would have fucking killed that.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be that way when Star Trek Discovery comes out. I'm going to be like, why am I not in this thing?
Oh yeah, you know what I got? You know, it was so funny. I got close on it, and it came out a couple of years ago. This week is I auditioned and got a couple of callbacks on the Jobs movie with.
I remember.
You remember that?
Yeah,
and
you did the whole thing in makeup.
I did.
You had your Big Time Rush people
full beard.
do the Steve Wozniak makeup on you.
They did a wig and makeup on me, and I went in and did the whole read like that. And then they gave it to Josh Gad.
Oh yeah,
who's amazingly talented and it was great. But it's funny because that movie is fucking horrendous.
Yeah,
like it's a terrible, terrible movie. No, if you ever get a chance to watch that and then watch the Steve Jobs movie, that the more recent one, and you're like, man,
yeah,
oh,
the
man.
Michael Fassbender one is like a good movie.
Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever worked on or seen that happen where two movies are being
Like
made
the
at
same
the same movies being made at the same time?
Well, when I was at New Line, I was developing with Don Murphy, who produced Transformers, but he did Natural Born Killers.
Oh
and
my god,
he's a great producer.
Yeah,
we were doing with this other writer. He had done Permanent
Midnight with
David Villos.
Was it the Ben Stiller
Ben Stiller,
movie?
I think it was him.
Permanent
the
Midnight.
Elf Rider, right?
But we were developing the story of Tina Brannon. Tina Brannon was the girl that was in.
Are you talking about Tina Brannon? No, from Boys Don't Cry.
Okay, so we were developing a project at New Line where we had the life rights to the family or something, and Fox was developing their Boys Don't Cry movie. And we were both competing, and we had different rights that they didn't have.
Whoa.
But they
had stuff you didn't have. You had stuff they didn't have,
and they just got theirs going before ours. But we there's a case where we had competing projects.
Who did you guys have in the lead? Do you remember?
We hadn't gotten that far.
Oh man, that's so crazy.
But usually you try to avoid that.
They had Hilary Swank. Did you have Sarah Jessica Parker?
That would have been a weird movie.
Weird.
With Sarah Jessica Parker.
Just big teeth actresses can play that part.
I saw it happen. There's a God. I just heard this the other day. This is a big secret. I guess maybe I shouldn't talk about this on the air. But there's a dinner that happens. Maybe you can collaborate this with me, Brian. There's a big dinner that happens once a month where all the studio heads meet up, or all the presidents or the heads of studios meet up and have dinner. Have you ever heard of anything like
The
this?
six families.
I don't know. I was never invited, I guess.
Ooh.
Illuminati.
But
You've come
maybe.
to see me in my house. We're going to discuss business.
what I had
We're not
heard
gonna
was-
do drugs in this family.
I heard that they all gotten together and then
That's the worst
and then
Brando ever, by the way.
it came up that one of them was doing Armageddon and one was doing Deep Impact, and they got into a what was almost a fist fight in the room over it, and it really broke people up, and everyone was very, very upset for a few years, and then it came back down and everyone was cool again. But I don't know. Those are some weird times.
Deep Impact was good, man.
Yeah,
Morgan
loved it.
Freeman was the president.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Anything where the world ends, love it.
That's good and terrifying.
Mike wants the world to be blown up. It's,
When you left New Line, what
well, I want to ask one more New Line question.
please.
Now, you did a movie while you were there called Detroit Rock City.
Yes.
Yes,
Did you
come on.
Work with Kiss? Did you go in and meet with Gene Simmons? What happened with that?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Because Kiss had done a movie before that on TV called The Phantom of the Park.
So what happened was not again. I keep saying again, but so Michael DeLuca and I were huge Kiss fans. So in 1990, whatever it was, 96, when they announced their reunion tour, or 95, they announced they were doing this reunion tour with Ace and Peter.
Yes.
We were huge Kiss fans, and we were like, we got to figure out a way to do something with Kiss. We don't know what it is. And there was a guy that was a reader at New Line named Tim Sullivan. He's gone on to direct Maniac, 1000 Maniacs, and I can't remember all of his movies he's directed. He's directed a bunch of genre stuff. And somehow he had become friends with Gene Simmons because he liked Kiss, and his friend had written or had this script, Detroit Rock City, and so we went and DeLuca and I met with Tim, and we met with Gene. I remember we went to meet him at the what's the hotel, Sunset Marquis? That's the one off of
the Rock and Roll Hotel, right?
Yes,
there. Yes.
So it was before it was, but we met with Gene, and we were trying to figure out what to do with him, and then shortly thereafter, Tim found this script. And we,
Now, was the script about Kiss, or did you insert Kiss in? It was like a generic.
Always
like,
Kiss.
Okay.
It was always Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And we read it, and I mean, putting aside, I grew up on Kiss, and Mike did.
Sure.
It was a great story back in the time, and a quest, and they're nerds, and it totally worked. It could have been they were going to it doesn't matter. It didn't matter who the concert was. There was a quest story of them, going
My
through.
roommate at the time is one of the biggest Kiss fans on the planet Earth, and he's an extra in that movie because he found out about when they were going to be doing the concert scene, and he got in to go to that, and they played Detroit Rock City over and over and over and over again, and he was just 10 years later, he's still like, the greatest day of my life. Detroit Rock City 47 times in a row, and I got to scream. And he's like, if he could like pause the movie and be like, all right, I'm over in this corner of the screen here somewhere.
And I remember I wasn't there that night, but there was an air conditioning problem, and we kept having they had to keep giving water because we kept shooting. But
my favorite line of the movie is when they asked the one kid, like, hey, you gonna go see Kiss? And he's like, Kiss sucks. I love that line. Every time somebody brings up Kiss online, I find there's like a clip on YouTube, just 2 seconds of that kid going, Kiss sucks, and I post it on there as a comment just to be a troll.
Gene Simmons is so great. Have you ever met Gene or hung out with him at all?
Yeah.
That guy's the best. I've only met him twice. I've met him twice. One time for like 5 seconds here at the Improv. He came with his wife to come watch Jeff Ross perform, which was so fucking cool. It was really, really neat, and he was great. And Jeff like called him out, and it was great. It was super, super fun. It was for an episode of their TV show.
Yeah,
they do
Family Jewels.
Family Jewels.
Yeah.
They were doing Family Jewels here, and I got to go up on stage and play piano for Jeff that night. And so we got to like talk for like 2 seconds. Here's how this goes down. Fucking, that was years ago. That's like almost 10 years ago. Yeah. I'm like a month ago, I'm over at something at CAA at some weird meeting, and I'm in the parking area, and I'm standing there with these like executives, and we had just had this big meeting with like National Geographic or something like this, and we're standing there talking.
They're doing a wildlife movie about you?
Yes, about bears, about bears in the wild. Yeah, it's just me in a bag of Cheetos, just eating Cheetos all day. So it was just all of us. We're just standing there, and as we're standing there, Gene Simmons walks up, puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "If you're with this guy, you're in good hands. This guy's the best. Good to see you, pal." And then walked away. And everyone was like, "What the fuck was that?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, we're old friends, man." I just pretended like we knew each other, but it was great. He was so fucking cool.
Like,
just to do that is a fucking
like
rad
2 months
move.
ago,
It's great.
I saw Gene Simmons on the most unusual thing I would ever expect to see Gene Simmons on. I was watching a television show, and the host of the show says, "Hey," to his guest, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to have my neighbor come out, and he's going to talk to you about why what you're doing is unrealistic." And that show was the Dr. Phil show. And there was some guy on who wanted to be a rock star, and he's like 40, living in his parents' basement. And he's like, "Look, you need to get a job." And Dr. Phil apparently is neighbors with Gene Simmons.
Oh, amazing!
And he had Gene Simmons come out, and they play like rock and roll all night when Gene Simmons comes out, and there's like smoke. And the guy comes walking out. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now?
He came out and was like,
He comes out and he gives this guy like a lecture. He's like, "Now look, I think your band is pretty good, but you're 40 and you're still trying to make it as a rock star. Now, I know I live the rock star lifestyle, but not everybody can be Gene Simmons. There's only one Gene Simmons." And he's like, "I think you need to get a job. You can still do this at night and still pursue your dream, but you're not Gene Simmons. I'm Gene Simmons."
So
and the guy was
amazing.
and the guy was like crying that he met his hero, Gene Simmons.
Oh my
Hell
God.
yeah. And
That's
then Gene
amazing.
Simmons told him to get a life, basically. It was fun. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Awesome.
Which I never thought I would ever expect that.
No.
And then they showed those pictures like Dr. Phil playing golf with Gene Simmons. And it's like, these guys hang out. That's weird.
God, that's so weird. All right. I got 3
amazing.
questions before we wrap this thing up. All right. Okay. Number 1.
Can we ask about Final Destination 2?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Final Destination's such a badass movie, by the way.
You were involved with that. How close were you involved with that? Like
Developed the whole
Okay.
thing.
Man.
Was
God,
there
are you
any
serious?
point-
The first one.
Yeah.
Was there any point in time where somebody came and they're like, "All right, I've got this idea for a Rube Goldberg machine that's going to kill somebody, because that's what they all were, basically. Like, were there any of those deaths where you were like, let's change that. Instead of a Ferris wheel, let's make it something? Like, did you get into the nitty-gritty with that stuff on that movie?
Well, a bit. I'll tell you, interesting. It wasn't originally like that. The original, an assistant wrote it. This guy Jeff Reddick, who's now gone on, but he was the assistant to the guy that ran television, and he wrote this treatment called. It was still Final Destination. The premise was the same, except that Death. I'm not making this up. Death with like a sickle would hunt the kids down. So the murders were all by death, like a physical manifestation of death.
Whoa.
And I remember...
More like, I Know What You Did Last Summer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I remember reading, I go, this premise is fucking great. Kid gets on a plane, and the scheme of life, he's allowed to escape, but the others should have died on the plane, so death gets them. And we would keep trying to have Jeff pull death out more and more, and it wasn't till... we met with Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who were from the X-Files. They came up with the Rube Goldberg-esque thing where, like,
my God.
well, you don't need death at all. Death should just be a presence.
Yeah.
And that was it. And we were like, oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
And then, it was their intent. There was their vision of the deaths would be these set pieces where the flame and the wind and the blah, 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 blah.
And then when they do the, like... when they get like halfway and you're like, oh my God, they're going to die. And then they get away that time. And it's like, it's so cool, that movie.
Oh God, it was so cool. And what's really cool is that like
they've kept it up.
Every single one of those movies are
fun, right?
They're all super fun to watch.
Yeah, they're very fun. Like the deaths themselves, to me, they're interchangeable at this point. Like I can't remember which ones happened in the first one versus the fourth one or whatever. But I mean, they're all so fun to watch.
Yeah.
All those little things where it's like, it's building and building and it just builds the tension without there being a killer.
Yeah. There was one where a tire flew off and it ripped a girl in half. And I was like, during a race. It was like during a race.
Yeah, and like you think they're going to get away and it's,
Yeah, and you're like, how could it travel that far? And then it happens and you're like, especially, and then once they started implementing like 3D and stuff into it. And this is where I've got 3 questions for you. Question number 1, how do you feel about 3D in movies these days? Because I know it's happening a lot. It's almost not even an issue anymore. It's just all the time. Every movie you go to, they're like, oh, you can see it for an extra $100,000 in 3D. Right. And you're like, well, for fucking what? Like, do you feel like anyone's doing it right?
Mad Max Fury Road was freaking awesome.
100%.
I mean, I saw that at the Man Chinese. Unfortunately, not. I grew up on Mad Max, and I wanted to take my 2 boys because they like action, and they were like, no, we don't want to see it. And I finally convinced my older one to go, but it wasn't on the big screen. But in 3D, that was friggin' amazing because you the depth of field, you felt like
when you see the storm off in the distance and stuff like that, it's very cool.
Like Miller used the 3D where I've gone to other movies where,
Miller, by the way, made Babe 2 Pig in the City.
Really?
Wow, circling.
I did not know that.
But other movies where it's an afterthought or it's not preconceived or
the ones where they add it in digitally after it's done and it's kind of
it just feels weird.
But it makes it dark
because I was with Oren Pelley and I were looking at doing a movie where we were going to shoot it in 3D, and we met with all the different we met with the same company that had all the equipment for Avatar, and then we met with Stereo. I forgot the company, but they did the Avengers post. And what was interesting is, like, for the Avengers, Joss Whedon met with the stereographer before shooting, because you have to shoot it in a certain way to properly use the depth of field, like, to make it work. You can't have things really close because it looks weird, or like if you're running through a field, like corn stalks coming at you. That's if you shoot it practically, to digitize and make all those things look so perfect is really time consuming and difficult.
There's so many items on screen.
Where it's easier to just have them run through a green screen and then put the stuff in optically after, because then you could get it exactly. But like, he had gone through the whole movie and figured out how he's going to shoot it to maximize the 3D effect. Like, that to me is cool.
Yeah.
But an after thing is just
not just like Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, where they're just like, oh, let me point the knife at the screen.
But really, what about you guys? Like, besides Fury, I mean, Fury Road blew me away.
I saw
Avatar's
Star
great in
Wars.
3D.
Yeah,
but I'm a huge Avatar nerd. But
you really are. It's embarrassing.
I'm trying to think.
I'm just kidding. No,
Tron?
Tron in 3D was pretty great.
pretty good.
I mean,
Yeah.
I went to the TCL Chinese to the IMAX there and watched the Star Wars
Force Awakens.
Force
Yeah, we
Awakens.
saw it.
Unreal in 3D. It was like it was pretty.
It was good.
It was pretty cool. There's a lot of neat little things and stuff like that, and they did a nice job with it. But I think they knew what they were doing the whole time. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It happens sometimes though. I think maybe X-Men or one of these movies recently I saw in 3D and I was like, what is happening? It's just weird.
Yeah, sometimes you see these movies in 3D and you're just like, why did you bother? It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, sometimes that can be.
It's just a cash grab. A lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they know they get a higher ticket price, and that opening weekend people go see it in 3D, and they're going to get a bigger take of it and all that.
But when it's done, I forgot which Transformers. I took my kids to Universal IMAX.
Yeah,
was awesome in 3D.
Oh yeah.
We walked out of Transformers 3 in 3D.
We did.
Yeah,
we did. What studio was that?
Paramount.
Okay, yeah, we walked out of that. It was fine.
They made Dr. Ken not funny in that movie.
Yeah, that's
which is amazing. How do you make Dr. Ken not?
They
funny?
made T.J. Miller not funny.
Yeah,
that's hard because T.J. Miller's amazing.
Yes.
How about practical effects to digital effects? Like, what do you prefer? You know, are you which way do you like to go?
Either or, but I mean the practical stuff. Depending on the movie, looks better. It's
What did you use on Final Destination when somebody died?
They're all practical and digital.
It's like a mix.
Well,
mixing it.
So we'll go since you guys like
Fury
that
Road,
movie.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
So Final Destination was the whole ending was reshot. You know, when they were in Paris, that was actually British Columbia, but that wasn't the original ending. And the original ending, Devin Sawa, the kid, died earlier in the movie. And do you know this or
No.
So. Do you want to hear this?
Yeah. Oh my God! Of course.
So remember the girls in the car? I forget everyone's name. You think I would know? But there's lightning, and she's in the car, and then Devin's outside the car, and there's lightning striking at the car, and he grabs the things, and he gets flown back into the garage. In the original movie, he realizes death's pattern, and he has to sacrifice himself to save.
because he knows
the survivor girl
that he
and the
should be
hero.
the next one, but if he doesn't go, then he's going to kill her to get to him or whatever.
So he and also in the earlier version there was a sex scene between the two of them. They had but their relationship didn't work. But so they have sex earlier in the movie. Then he goes to sacrifice himself to save her. He dies, literally dead. Right. And then we go from that scene to she survives. They're having a memorial funeral, at school for him. He's passed away. So she's alive, and the bad guy, whatever his name, I can't remember. I'm so bad with names. I think I know these movies I worked on. But so he's alive, and then we go from the funeral to I forgot how many months later, and she's giving birth to their kid. So she gives birth to their baby, and the bad kid's there, so to speak, and we watch as she's giving birth. Like a feather floats out the delivery room down and whatever, and you kind of go, "Oh, that's Alex." That I'm remembering his name, Alex's soul, and the movie ends. But the audience is watching this, and they're having fun to the whole movie,
and then it gets to be a downer.
And you see everyone, because when you're at the test screening, you're watching this, you're in the back, and you see people jumping and screaming.
Yeah.
And then they're just staring there, not reacting to anything. And then we got horrible ratings. It was bad.
Wow.
So no one liked that.
Just because the ending.
It was lame.
Wow.
And so then Morgan and Wong were like, okay, well, we have I'm using generic. The bad guy lives. He shouldn't live.
Let's kill the bad guy.
You don't want the good guy to die.
Sure.
So we cut out the romance, much of the that subplot, and then he gets flown back into the thing, and so that anyway, that ending where they go to Paris, we shot in British Columbia, and that big sign coming down, we actually built that.
Wow.
Like it was mechanically built. And
for a reshoot.
Just that ending that you guys saw, in whatever, was $1.7 million, I think, for that.
Wow.
But so it was practically built on gimbals coming down. There was they did the where you then see over the shoulder where the sign is crashing at him. That obviously was green screen. But the big thing was on cables and everything. Today you wouldn't do that.
That's so cool.
They do it all digital now.
But it was all practical.
Oh my
That's
god,
awesome.
That's amazing. Here's a question. I'm having trouble remember the right terminology for this. I know we got to wrap up, but what's the term that they use to describe it when everybody either likes a character or hates the character? What's that called? That's what we've talked about that in
Polarizing?
Yes. When you're working on a movie, thank you.
Are you asking because your character?
Shut up for a second. When you're working on a movie and they do a test screening and people are like, that character is polarizing. What does that end up? Has that ever happened? Have you ever heard that term used in the studio?
No, I mean, I'm trying to think. People were, I don't know if polarized would be the right word, but like Derek Vineyard, the Edward Norton character in American History X.
Sure.
He does that curb sandwich, curb, I forgot what it was
curb
called.
stomp.
Yeah.
Curb stomp. But then by the end of the movie, he's, clearly metamorphosized from a racist into, not. So people were a little polarized because it was so intense, but he was, it went somewhere. But I've never. But I don't know. Give me an example.
Here we go.
I'm in this movie right now called Storks.
Okay,
which
yes.
comes out.
I've seen that.
In a
Looks
couple of
very
weeks.
funny.
All right, and I play the pigeon in the movie, and so they keep doing these test screenings. All right, and every single time they do a test screening, my character from the kids are like, we fucking love. Well, oh my god, I should not use that. They shouldn't say that. I don't know.
It's a kid with
We've
potty
come too
mouth.
far.
He
Let's
fucking
go.
loves it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've said a lot of fucks tonight. Come on.
The kids are like, we love this character, and the adults are like, okay, wait. The kids are like, we love this character, and the adults are like, this character is so annoying. So they keep saying like it's very polarizing. Either the kids love it, the parents are like, Have you ever run into anything like that where they were like super weird like that? It's just, I don't know if it's weird. Maybe it's normal.
I feel like there are movies where in the cards where you'll read like they'll rate the character, and it could be a certain age group doesn't like the character and another does, and you don't. I mean,
I get that.
You go to the audience.
In some demos,
like
you're loved for that character. In some demos, they don't like the character.
We'll see. Well,
but
Maybe it's because your pigeon looks like Donald Trump, and that's why the adults are just like, this is crazy. This pigeon's
true.
going to be our president.
he does look like Donald Trump.
does he start singing like up like Trump or?
No, he has a toupee.
Oh.
He's got like
He wears like a suit, and he's got the
blonde-
Donald Trump toupee.
Well, maybe that's why they.
That's a
because the
possibility.
kids don't know any better, and the adults are like, hey.
All right, so here's the third question. The last question is, if you have a choice, if you're shooting a movie, would you rather shoot on a soundstage, on a backlot, or on location?
And,
In any film that you've gotten a chance to work on, like if they were like, oh, we're going to shoot this scene, where would you rather shoot it? Would you rather have practically?
But it all depends on the movie. Like you mentioned, Dark City. It was almost.
It's almost all on stage.
All
right?
on. There's the scene underneath the railroad tracks where the car is parked exterior. That was practical in Australia.
Was the beach scene on location somewhere?
No, I don't think that was. It was all stage. But it depends on the movie. But it's like I did this movie with Oren Peli called Chernobyl Diaries, and we shot it in not in Chernobyl, but that we wanted to. Believe it or not, but
Let's turn off the lights, see if he glows.
But we did want to actually shoot it there. But we shot it in Serbia and Hungary, and it was just so much fun being on location and creating something different.
Yeah.
So it's it all depends.
That's
But
so cool.
But it is like Dark City. I was over in Australia for like a week, and going on this is not a bitching about it, but like just every day you're in this dark stage where you have no sense of whatever's going on outside is really weird. And I couldn't imagine like Alex, who was there for months, and that becomes
probably didn't see
your
daylight
life.
for months on end.
But the location is fun. I think.
Now, can I just offer up before we finish off?
Yeah, no.
One quick thing. You were involved with Freddy versus Jason.
Yes.
Now, as a huge fan of the Friday the 13th series, as bad as it is, like they're fun movies to watch, but they're not award-winning movies. You know what I mean? They're movies where you're like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to get. I want to see that.
They're badass,
but it's
though.
not a good movie.
Like,
It's
I
a
remember
badass
those
movie.
better than anything. Yeah.
So I remember at the end of, I think it's part 9, you see Freddy's claw reach up out of the ground and grabs Jason's mask. And I mean, when I saw that, I was like, this is so cool. It's going to happen. They're going to team these guys up. And then it was like 10 years before that happened. There was Jason X in between. I think there might have even been the reboot of Friday the 13th in between. If I remember. I don't remember how that
was after.
It was after. Okay. But I remember, then they're like, okay, it's now, how did you,
Wow, really?
Jason in space? Come on.
All right, keep going.
So how did you decide finally, like, okay, let's make this actually happen, which fans like me were dying to see?
Well, actually, when I first started at New Line, that was one of the early projects Mike gave me. He goes, figure this out, and I grew up on
and it was
Friday
like, how do you
the
make
13th.
that match up?
By the way, I left before it was sorted out. I went for 5 years. I worked with everyone from David Scow to David Goyer to Rob Bottin was going to direct it, who was this phenomenal makeup effects guy. He did, like The Howling and Legend, all those creatures. He was going to do it.
Jeez.
And then we had this guy Mark Protasevich, who was a phenomenal writer, come in and work on it. We honestly, I couldn't figure it out. Because
it's hard to match those two franchises up.
I think, I'm not sure if it was under DeLuca they've sorted it out, but we were such fanboys. We were honestly, in hindsight, we were overthinking it. And we were trying to make it really fucking different and cool. And no disrespect to the movie, it was a fun. It clearly delivered it. We overthought it instead of just delivering what the audience wanted. And
I think it came out great when they finally figured that out, to just make it like, oh, it's in his dream, and then you gotta. I was like, oh, that totally works.
Ours were like, like Freddy was a camp counselor. One version had Freddy being one of the camp counselors at Crystal Lake. So that's why, Freddy, Jason's coming after him as a revenge. Like we just kept overthinking it.
Because that series has so many cool things in it. Some of the movies are actually pretty good movies. Like I love when Jason Takes Manhattan. I think is actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Like that's a good actual movie. Freddy vs. Jason is a good actual movie. The one where Jason changes bodies all the time is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's the one where Freddy's claw comes out and grabs it.
But you enjoyed the end.
Yeah.
The closing credit scene, the credit cookie on that movie is better than the entire movie, but I would pay $10 to see it.
Is that your favorite closing credit scene?
It's among them, yeah. It's one of the best.
Brian, do you have
Because
That's a good question.
But do you have go ahead.
I was going to tell you an interesting Friday the 13th story. So then I was at New Line, which we never got into my 5 years at Paramount, but that's all right.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
But have to.
What?
We didn't get into Paramount?
Yeah. But
you know what? You know why? Because credit wise, it's not everything is listed on IMDb.
But so when I was at Paramount, I saw that we had the remake rights to Friday the 13th, the first one, and so we were going to remake that and do a different version, do a retelling of the first one, but with it was going to be an MTV movie, but New Line had certain rights, and I had worked at New Line before, and so at the time, this is the story I was told, Quentin Tarantino wanted to do his own version of Friday the 13th with Jason, but he needed footage. He wanted to use footage from
the original,
from the the
Betsy
Paramount
Palmer
owned
version?
Moon.
Okay.
No, all those other ones because
Oh, okay.
Paramount had released them before New Line.
Yeah.
But he wanted to use footage from that in his new version, and so we were trading. We were gonna give. We were gonna make sure we cleared up the rights to do our Friday the 13th, the remake of the first one,
Sure.
and then we would give them footage.
Give them footage for that,
and
yeah.
so that was all going to be done, and then the regimes changed at Paramount, and the new people didn't want to do it, and it didn't happen. But
I
Could
know
it
that.
still?
Yeah, it's a weird series in that Jason, the iconic character, isn't in the first movie.
No,
they talk
right?
about him.
He's
but
not
it's,
in it.
It's Jason's mom, Betsy
Mom.
Palmer.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! You've had 30 years. Fucking watch the movie. Don't bitch at me if you haven't seen the movie. But I love when Kevin Bacon dies in that movie. It's so cool. That's one of the best
Great.
deaths in that whole series.
So how long were you at Paramount for?
5 years.
Oh my God, man! You must have worked on a lot of incredible things over there. Where were you? What was your job position at Paramount?
I was executive vice president. I came from New Line. They lured me over there to go.
Did you know Eben Davidson?
Yeah, Eben was actually a creative executive.
I talked to him today.
He worked as like a junior helping me. He was great.
Whoa.
You know,
So
he left being the vice president just recently to become the SVP of
Television.
of television development.
Cool.
Now,
But yeah, I
Very
was
cool. Very
What are
cool
some of
guy.
the projects you worked on there that you really liked?
So I did. When I say I did, I worked on them. But like Vanilla Sky was the
Oh my
first thing.
God!
Oh, yeah, wow.
Come on.
And I
So
when
coming from New Line, you go to Paramount. That's like a big step up in budget.
yeah.
That's
It was
outrageous.
big, but also a big step up in politics, which we didn't have it.
Sure.
New Line. But when I was there, I worked on all of Tom's movies like Vanilla Sky and then Mission 3.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh my God,
and
those
then I got
Mission movies.
That's so good.
Sandler to do Longest Yard. I did with him, and then Spade. We did Dickie Roberts together.
I did.
I
I
love
worked on
Jake
Longest Yard for one day,
Did you really?
doing crowd warm up work
Nice.
for the
God.
crowd scenes. And I shook the hand of, I forget his name, but he's that guy. He's like I think he's dead now, actually, but he was like a former professional wrestler guy that was on the movie. He's like one of the big guys in the movie. And I shook this guy's hand, and it was the largest piece of human flesh I've ever felt. Like it was like picking up a 10-pound brisket and like rubbing your hand against it. That was shaking this guy's hand. I forget his name. But he's like, he looks kind of weird.
Horrifyingly descriptive.
Yeah, brisket.
But Longest Yard, Sandler, they were just producing it. And we were going to go out to Vince Vaughn to be,
To be the Burt Reynolds role.
the Burt Reynolds role. And I remember I was trying to, my boss was like, you got to get Sandler to do this. You got to get him to do it. And I remember calling him. He was on vacation in Hawaii. I go, you really got to. Oh, no, he called me and he said, I've been practicing taking snaps and, I'm thinking about maybe doing it. And then he came back from Hawaii, or I think Jack called me and said, Sandler wants to do it.
Oh
And-
my God.
But-
that was such a great movie too.
And
Yeah.
the original is one where there's scenes in the original where you're like, they can't do this in the remake. Like the beginning, Burt Reynolds smacking his girlfriend around and stuff. And it was just like a thing. And you're like, yeah, that's not going to make, because I heard they were making a remake and I love the original movie. And I was like, how do they remake that? There's so many things they can't do.
Yeah.
Every time they update, at least recently,
Like Bad News Bears was one where I was like, oh, they left out the greatest line in the movie, but you can't do it now.
I just saw the updated version of Pete's Dragon.
Yeah,
and
how is it?
It's awesome.
Oh,
it's
I
an
wanna
awesome
see it.
movie. It looks great. The creature, it looks like something. It looks like Where the Wild Things Are, kind of, and it's really fascinating. And Bryce Dallas Howard, I think, can do no wrong as an actress. Like, she's incredible. They cast her. They got Wes Bentley, who's like American Beauty and stuff. And Robert Redfern. So you have real actors who are playing it for real in a sci-fi. It's kind of like a fantasy movie, and they nail it. And they don't. When they update it, they didn't update it and go. They didn't like remake it and go, look, we're going to shoot the exact same movie and it's going to be the same storyline exactly. They like used it kind of as like inspiration for a newer, more updated movie. I really loved it. I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
well, I
to
think it's
see
a
it.
movie you can do that with because it's not so iconic where everyone knows the plot of Pete's Dragon inside and out. Like it's a popular movie, but it's not one where you're like, oh, well, this scene goes exactly like this, and here's the backstory that goes exactly like this. Like, it's not a movie like that where you're sort of locked into a
Which is
certain way
what
of
they did
doing
with
it.
Jungle Book. When they did Jungle Book, they were like, we have to stick exactly to it, and they tried to make. I mean, I
Did
don't
they
know if you
stick to
saw
the book or did they stick to the animated
They
movie?
stuck to the animated movie
Oh, okay,
with
that's
the
weird.
songs and the whole bit, and they tried to like, and it was, I mean, it was Favreau. I mean, so
amazing.
you're like,
Yeah.
you're like, I can't believe Favreau made this movie, and he's from, you know, the guy from Swingers. Like,
Yeah.
it still kind of blows me away that he's like that guy.
Great photo of you on Pete's Dragon on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, I like that too. That's
also-
good.
Me riding
and,
the dragon.
and I just want to hear, like, I know I like Paramount stuff, man. I just want to listen.
Yes, please, please tell us more Paramount stuff.
Well, we're
We're okay for time, right?
Yeah. Dynamite. Okay.
Please.
went there and I was I'm trying to think of a good Paramount story. Mission Impossible. Here's a World of Worlds story. So I was the executive on World of Worlds, but really when you're Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg, it's not like I'm telling you those stories about Sandler where you're reading pages and giving notes.
Yeah.
It's not, you're like,
Yeah, with those two, it's
With Spielberg.
I visited the set with Sherry Lansing, who was the chairman, and
like-
Donald DeLine one day, and
you're like, Mr. Spielberg, what would you like me to tell you as a note on this script?
you don't,
Sir?
It's not like you're really involved.
You're like, can I get you a bagel with cheese?
Yeah.
Would you like to throw a bagel at me just to have fun?
Because it's
whatever.
Spielberg.
God.
Yeah.
But we were trying to find a writer, and I remember I spoke to David Lahner, who was an agent at Endeavor at the time, and he said, well, J.J. Abrams could be great to write World of Worlds. And I obviously knew his work from the TV stuff, and I forgot regarding Henry he wrote. And so he was a big sci-fi fan, and I remember calling Paula Wagner, who was Tom Cruise's partner. I said, hey, David Lahner suggesting J.J. Abrams. Are you guys fans? Do you think Tom would like that? And she said, let me check. And she, said, yes, absolutely. And then J.J. went and met with Steven, and that he didn't have availability or whatever for World of Worlds, but then circled back to we were doing Mission 3, and it was originally the director was the guy, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on this. Joe Carnahan was directing it, and we had a totally different script, and we then weren't seeing eye to eye, whatever. We wanted to go a different direction, and we needed a director, and we were offering the script, trying to find a director, and then JJ came back around. And I remember watching the pilot to Lost that JJ directed.
Sure.
And because, again, Lahner said J.J. Abrams would be great for this.
Yeah.
He could rewrite it and blah, blah, blah. And I remember taking the movie over, because back then we had videos. There was no DVDs, I think. And then Paula watched Lost, and they met with JJ. And JJ said he wanted to do it, but he had a whole different approach to it.
Yeah, that's a rare series where I think the movies have gotten better as they've gone along.
So good.
Which is weird. Because like most movie series, you're like, okay, the first one's the best, and then the second one's all right, and the third one, and then it sort of peters out. But the Mission Impossible series, it's like they've just gotten better
They're
and better
so
and
good.
better.
So good.
Yeah.
And
that last one, have you seen? Did you see the
was
last
great.
one? It's so funny too. Like he would do things. They almost let it kind of be a little
Like adding in Simon Pegg in like the fourth movie or whatever it was, I was like, it just was like a great addition to the formula.
Well, they kind of added a tiny sprinkle of Get Smart into the movie, where Tom Cruise is climbing the thing, and then the batteries run out and they die, and he's like, and it's so he plays it so he's so funny in it. Like I really enjoyed. It made me love Tom Cruise again, because I was like, one of the worst things I think that can happen in Hollywood is when an actor becomes more known for being a person than for being an actor. Like Jennifer, there's been people, I'm not going to say who, but you know what I'm saying? There's been people where they get brought out and then they get dragged around, and you're like, this person's a very talented actor.
Absolutely.
Let them just do their thing that they do. And it's that gets very frustrating, because like you watch like Harrison Ford, like people know almost nothing about they know he's with Callista Flockhart. They know he likes to fly planes badly, but that's about it.
Yeah, he's still Han Solo, and he's Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Brad Pitt, insanely talented actor, but they're just constantly kind of dragging him through the mud, kind of being like, "Hey, look at Brad Pitt in the street," and you're like, how about just let the guy just be amazing like he was in 12 Monkeys. Like, let him just have a good time,
And obviously, he not obviously, but didn't know him that totally as intimately as I knew Sandler. But to me, all the shit that they write about Tom just isn't true. I mean,
he seems like the nicest guy in the world.
He was the nicest guy, and he's he takes it very, his job, very serious. It's a job, he takes it all his craft very seriously, and all the, again, I haven't worked with him in a long time, but he was nothing like people would write.
That's a guy where like people have this image of him that he's this crazy madman or whatever. We all saw the jumping up and down on the couch on Oprah, which I don't think is really fair. But then every person I've ever talked to who's met him has said he's been the nicest, most professional guy who puts out good movies. He puts out movies people want to see. Like, I think he's probably, of the last 40 years, the best movie star we've got. Like a guy who he's like Cary Grant in the 80s and 90s, where he's a guy who's like, he's handsome. You want to watch him. Guys want to watch him. Women want to sleep with him. Like everything that you want a movie star to be, he is.
And most of the movie, I mean, he has a pretty.
Almost every
every
movie
one is
Vanilla
killed.
Sky was incredible.
Thanks.
Incredible. That was, man, oh man, yeah.
Such a
But by the way,
movie.
that movie, I mean, got. Not, I wouldn't say it got me to leave New Line, but it did. Like, I was meeting with other studios, and I met with John Goldwyn, who was the president co-chair of Paramount. And he, wanted me to come over there. And then I met with Sherry Lansing, and she was trying to. And my ex-wife and I remember we went to the MTV Movie Awards. I wasn't working there, and then I went to an after party with John Goldwyn and his wife, and I was hanging out with, of all people, of Q-Tip, because I had done a movie with him at New Line.
Oh my God!
And John Goldwyn keeps trying to get me to commit to go to Paramount. He's like, I'm going to give you the biggest movie star and the biggest director, and you're going to, and I'm off doing, it wasn't like a game. I was just off having fun and being naive to everything. And he, meanwhile, was like working my ex-wife, like going, why isn't he just coming here? I mean, and then I finally, after whatever, I come back after hanging out with a bunch of people I knew, and he goes, look, I'm going to give you Tom Cruise's next movie and Cameron Crowe's, okay?
Wow. And
I'm like, I'm done. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, they were idols of mine.
Yeah,
I mean, I
of
love
course.
Cameron Crowe and Tom Cruise.
Yeah, you can't turn that down.
No. And then,
Now, were they recruiting you because your work at New Line? I mean, you worked on some really good movies there you worked on some good prestige movies. You worked on some good mainstream hits. You worked on some great horror movies. Like, you sort of crossed the board with the work you did there, where you're like, I've got a Sandler movie that's a big hit comedy. I've got this Alex Proyas movie that critics loved, even though the public didn't. It was a great movie. I've got American History X that was up for Oscars and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Phenomenal.
Edward Norton sort of broke Edward Norton out to another level. I mean, like, you worked on some really good movies, and they said, okay, we got to get this guy into Paramount. And then you go there and you just sort of do it again with Vanilla Sky sort of helps relaunch Tom Cruise into the public eye in these ways. I mean, that's a lot of really good, great movies you worked on.
I know, you're amazing.
Though that, no, please.
No, you are. You're
honestly,
super cool.
I had nothing. I read
You're
this.
the
I am not.
Oh, Brian,
I read the
you're
script. I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, Brian.
But
what was
I'll tell you
Please.
a funny Tom Cruise story. So to get into Tom's world, you have to work your way into, because he's very cautious. So they have to slowly, until I met him, make sure Paula liked me, whatever, work your way. And so I remember it was Sherry Lansing was the chairman and John Goldwyn, and we had flown to New York, and we were going to go sit down with Tom and talk about Vanilla Sky, because we had just, I think, read the first draft. And so we go to, I don't remember whose hotel room we were meeting him in. It was either his room or Sherry Lansing's. And so it's Tom and Paula, and then Sherry, John Goldwyn, and myself. And so we meet everyone, sit down, and so it's the five of us. Very intimidating. This is the first time I've meeting Tom in person.
These are like four of the most powerful people in all of Hollywood, and I'm here.
And me. And so clearly I was the lowest on the totem pole, and they need a drink. So I had to...
You're like, I'm going to go get the drinks.
And I'm, serving everyone. So I leave to go back into where the kitchen area is of this hotel room, and I'm telling the story out of sequence, but what I didn't know was, which I learned after the meeting, Tom is like saying to John and Sherry and Paula, who is this guy? They had forgotten to tell Tom that I was coming to the meeting. So Tom had no idea
he's like, so who's this guy?
who this guy is. And they were like, oh, and they're
It's like he doesn't know if you're some assistant of them. Like, who knows?
Who is this guy? And meanwhile, I'm getting drinks and I come back and I didn't know this transaction had gone on and the meeting went on. But that was my introduction to Tom. And then I had once, I wanted to go to the set and I was waiting for when I could go to the set because I'm a fanboy at heart. I don't know, like I happen to be lucky. I'm doing what I've been doing. And so I just wanted to go and hang out. And I kept being told, well, make sure, I'm not sure. And one night we were shooting on the back lot at Paramount. It was a Friday and my ex-wife was out of town with the kids. So I was like, fuck this. I'm just showing up on the set. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
I show up. It was all great. Saw Tom and they're shooting and end. Said hello to everyone. So it's the end of the shoot. We wrapped it. I don't remember what it was, say 11:30. So Tom comes over to me and goes, good to see you, Brian. And he's staring right in my eyes. Like, good to see you. So they got you here watching us on a Friday night, huh? And I'm like, no. I'm a fanboy, Tom. I'm here because I'm a fanboy. And he goes, like he. And I shook his hand, but by the end of our shoot, I would go and show up on Saturdays when we were shooting downtown with cool explosions and whatever. And by the end of it, he realized that I wasn't just this suity guy. I mean, I loved what I was doing.
Now, were you in a suit? Like, that's the thing I know. They always talk about it as being the suits. Did you have to wear a suit when you did this job?
No, but I'll tell you another funny story. So we had a negotiation for my deal to go there. I had a great lawyer. And so my lawyer just kept asking for whatever, more and more, not more. I don't mean more and more, but just like protecting me, not monetarily, but the time period there. And so it was done. And I had called John, the chairman, before about something about the deal and whatever. And so we're finally, after this few weeks of negotiations, it hits me what you just said, a suit. And I remembered I wore a suit once. I feel like all I talk about is Sandler tonight, but no. I wore a suit to something, and Sandler made fun of me the whole fucking time.
Oh my god!
And they just couldn't believe I was wearing a suit to whatever it was we were doing at New Line, and I'm like, that's. So I called John Golden and go, hey, it's Brian. And he goes, hey, yeah. I go, look, I have one more thing.
Is there a dress code?
I have one more thing, and I hear John like on the other, like take it, get like when someone's sick of you calling about something.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, oh, what?
And
now?
he's like, what? And I go, look, I'm just not a suit guy. Like I feel like whatever. And he goes, Brian, if you wanted to run up and down the hallways of Paramount in your underwear and you got the job done, I wouldn't care. You could wear whatever you want. And I just wore whatever clothes. But
hey, I got one for you real quick. At Paramount, did you ever meet they used to call him the mayor of Paramount?
Yes.
Or what's his name? The older guy?
Oh my God.
Passed away recently.
Earl. No, was it not Earl? It was
oh God. He was the guy. He did all the old.
He was amazing.
Movies.
I would go sit down with him.
What was his name?
And he would tell me all these.
Would you Google
what's the background on this guy? What was looking?
He back in the third. I mean, like he'd been there when Fritz Lang was making movies, and
he was a
Nelson, and DeMille. I mean, not DeMille. No, that wouldn't have been before his time, but.
Let's take a look and see real quick.
If I Google the mayor of Paramount, it just tells you the mayor of the city of Paramount,
California. Paramount Pictures.
California. Yeah, if you do like mayor of Paramount Pictures.
Let me look that up.
I feel so bad that we're like doing this on
It wasn't
our show.
Earl.
Okay.
It was.
If I Google the mayor of Paramount Pictures, it brings up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
Give this to me real quick. Hang on.
So he was on the lot.
He'd worked there forever.
Okay. What did he do there?
I don't remember what he became like the mayor of Paramount Pictures, where he would tell stories, and he had his own office.
Oh, so like people come by for tours and stuff, and he was sort of like a historian?
But he knew everything, like his memory. He would tell me amazing stories about Fritz Lang and
Hitchcock and
DeMille and Hitchcock. And like I, as a fanboy, I became friends with the guy that ran the whole studio, like the studio backlot.
Yeah.
And so he let me go.
AC Lyles.
AC Lyles.
We get it. We did it. All right. Here we go.
No.
We're going to talk about him for real. Hang on.
It was great.
AC Lyles was the oldest employee in the history of Paramount Pictures. He started working for Paramount when it was a movie theater as an usher. He was a usher for the Paramount family, for their whoever the family was that owned it. He worked for the theaters there, and then became an employee of Paramount, working in the studio system. And then he became a producer from all these like westerns. He would do all these westerns like way back in the olden days, and they just let him keep his job, and they put him in this weird office. It was like across from stage, I want to say
commissary.
25, above the commissary, across from the commissary, way up top on the top floor. And this guy, this is not a joke. This is and we can say this. He's passed away, and we love the guy. He was great, but this is a real thing, because I was at Paramount doing Big Time Rush for 5 years. This is a real thing that really happened, and you're gonna love this, Mike. He had more sexual harassment lawsuits against him than any other studio employee in the history of Paramount. Women, not from he wouldn't like do things to women, but the way that he would talk to women, or the way that he would like come on to women or say night, he maybe grab an ass cheek or something here and there. It was very friendly, overly friendly. But this is a true story. He had a secretary in the 1970s. And he said to the secretary, do you want to come? Will you come into my office for a minute? And she said, for what? And he said, I want you to come in and give me a blowjob.
Oh my God.
And she said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm your secretary. And he went, hang on a second. Are you a woman? And she said, yes. And he goes, and you work here? And she said, yes. And he goes, then why won't you give me a blowjob? And she goes, I don't do that because I'm a woman. I do not need this. I am not doing that for you. And he was like, hang on a second. You're a woman, right? You're a secretary and you work for me, right? And she was like, uh-huh. And he's like, so then why won't you give me a blowjob?
So was he good friends with Shelley?
I was just gonna say,
more complaints. But I mean, every time I met him on the set of Deadwood when I worked on Deadwood a million years ago, and he would just come by and hang out, and every once in a while, he'd grab a girl's ass. But so does Fabio when he sees women too, so that's okay.
It's Fabio.
It's Fabio.
Do you think they would be all right with that as opposed to AC, or
more all right with Fabio than everyone gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think women in general don't like having their ass grabbed. But
okay, so say
with
what
respect.
if Brad Pitt grabs your ass?
I think it's okay at some. Look, Fabio, I've seen him grab.
But is there
he
a
grabbed my
line?
mom's ass, Fabio. Like he grabbed,
And she said thank you.
she did. She liked it a lot.
Wow.
You know.
But is there a line where a woman would go, "Oh, Brad
Here's all
Pitt,"
we need to know. Everyone
but
in this
Brian
room,
Witten or
everyone
one
in
of
this room is below that line, so it doesn't matter.
the bar, if you
None
will.
of us are above that line. It's,
I completely agree. I think Brad Pitt maybe. I think he may be able to, but I think
Yeah.
we're all out of luck on that one.
one last
I
Paramount
would-
question.
yeah.
Did you work there when they did the movie Hitchcock with Anthony Hopkins?
No,
Okay.
I left. The other ones I worked on
saw
there
that movie in
were
the theater.
Transformers and
What's that?
G.I. Joe when I was there.
Oh,
You did G.I. Joe when you were there?
Cool.
I bought the projects and developed them.
Oh my God.
Is there anything right now that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm doing, as I mentioned before, working with Jeff on heavy metal, but I'm currently in pre-production on a remake of The Blob.
What?
With,
Oh my
Sam
God.
Jackson is starring, and Simon West, who did Con Air, and we shoot it in October in Ireland.
So this is a re-remake,
A re-remake, yes.
which is cool because there was the Blob in the 50s and the Blob in like 1980, and then
Yes.
there'll be a new Blob. That's
New
cool.
Blob.
So cool.
Which would be fun.
And
It's
again,
lot
that's a
of fun.
movie you can do that with because it's not one where it's like the lore is so locked in. You can give us a new movie that sort of reimagines it. I think would be
Totally.
a lot of fun. Like I would love to see.
Are you
that.
going
I
to
would
have
love to see it.
practical blob?
Jell-O, yes. We made a partnership with Jell-O.
No, you did not.
No.
Oh my God! Of course, that's so cool.
Mike, here's what we're
I
gonna do. We
love
will
it.
make Jell-O shots and go watch the Blob and do Jell-O shots watching the
sounds
new
very
Blob.
good.
That's what I
I'm
would love to
in.
do.
I'm in. Brian, I hope you join us for that. Where can people find you on the in the internet and in the world if they want to look you up? Is there
I'm on
ways?
Twitter or
Yeah, are you on Twitter?
What's Twitter?
IMDb. Brywit.
Brian?
I'm very clever. Brywit.
Very good. Very
Brian.
nice.
Briwitt?
No T. One T.
Okay.
Brywit.
And we'll tag you.
And then
in
also,
the, we'll tag you when this comes out.
tag me.
So,
man.
yeah,
Tag me.
I'll tag you, babe.
I like
tag
it.
you.
But
By the
what
way,
about
you have a new follower.
I
named
forgot.
Walker.
We actually met at Sandler's Hanukkah party.
Yeah.
Because my kids loved Big Time Rush, and we were going. Sandler took over. He takes over every Christmas or Hanukkah because he's Pickwick Bowling Alley out in the valley, and
best.
he invites everyone that's ever worked with him there. And it's anyway. So we were going. My kids and I were going down the bowling lane, and we're walking, and they go, "Oh my God, that's the from
Gustavo Rock.
yeah, from Big Time Rush." And I watched the show with the kids because I, like to watch what my kids are watching. And I love the show, not just because I'm sitting here. It was very funny, and
Thanks,
they were
buddy.
great. It was all,
By the way, I'm your best friend, and he's watched Big Time Rush way
Gustavo.
more than I have.
I watched them all, my kids. We loved them.
I saw
great.
3 of them.
That's
so cool.
My girlfriend
That was-
walked in on me watching an episode the other day, like 2 days ago. She walked in on me sitting in my underwear watching myself
so
on
you were
TV.
clothed. You were
Is that
clothed.
more
Yeah.
or less
That's what
embarrassing than her walking in on you watching porn?
She's never walked in on me watching porn. It's
Okay.
never happened.
Never?
Not yet.
How'd this
No.
feel in
Now that
relation
you have
to
your
porn?
VR
Same
stuff,
level?
it's going to
Oh,
be...
no. That's never happening. She's never. You walk in on your boyfriend with a mask on his face. That's the end. That's how a relationship ends.
And naked.
Yeah, that's not happening. You can't do that.
Yeah, how do you come back from that?
You,
I mean,
you
I guess
can't. That's the
That
end.
would be it, right?
That would
That's
be
it.
the end. That would be the end of it. I don't think
that'd
you
be
get over
weird.
that.
Like if you're,
Yeah, you can't do things like that. No, I'm trying. I don't.
Tell you what, it's a good
No.
top of the movie scene right there.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah, it
goes
really
to shit
is, yeah.
after
Could
that.
be good.
Yeah.
Could be good. It's absolutely.
I was trying to think of
terrifying.
being caught stories, but I'm going to leave that alone.
I walked in. When I went and met you that time at Sandler's party. This is a fact. This is a true story. I feel like I should tell real quick. Can we tell this real quick? How we doing? We okay?
My man,
All right.
he's got a date coming up. This guy's.
You have a date
Come
tonight?
on, Cloud Nine.
Oh, you're good.
No, he's happy.
You're
We-
okay. All right.
You
Here we
hooked him
go.
up.
Real quick. Here's what happened. Monty Hoffman. Do you remember Monty Hoffman? He's an old comedian.
Yes.
He's in Funny People.
Funny
Okay.
People. He's passed on since then.
Yeah. He looked like
R.I.P.
the operation guy.
Yes, he really did.
That was one of his bits, actually.
Yeah. He called me up one day and he goes,
Hey, Glickman, guess what? I'm taking you to go do a gig.
I was like, oh yeah, well, where's the gig? He goes,
Oh, it's a gig for children. You have to do stand up for kids.
I go, oh yeah, how old are the kids? He goes,
Like 8 or 9 years old. There's about 200 of them. You're getting paid $100.
I was like, okay,
And
so
this is before Big Time Rush.
this is before Big Time Rush. So I'm opening for him, right? And so he's like,
It's gonna be great.
and we'd gone and performed together before doing shows and stuff. So he goes, we get in the car, we're driving to the venue, and on the drive, he goes,
All right, let me hear your clean jokes for these kids.
and I go, okay, here's one. My mom used to say, don't go swimming if you've eaten in the last half hour. What she should have said is, stop eating every half hour. Right? And he goes,
It's too dirty. It's got to be cleaner than that.
and I'm sweating now in the car, right? And he's like,
Come on, you got something better than that.
I'm like, I got a tooth fairy joke. And he's like, come on. And we're driving. We pull up to Pickwick. We get out of the car at the bowling alley. We get out of the car. And I go, I'm really nervous. There's a lot of people here, man. And people are really dressed up. Maybe I shouldn't perform. And he goes,
You still think you're performing for kids?
and I was like, yeah, what are we doing? He's like,
This is Sandler's Christmas party, you moron. I'm taking you as my date, you piece of garbage.
That's awesome.
And then he took me, and then he walked around and told every single person at the party that I was.
And that was your first party.
That was
you
my
went
first time, and that's where we met.
Yes.
Was that night? It was crazy.
Not that night.
That's
No.
awesome.
No, that was the night that me
That's
and Brian
awesome.
That was first time, and then we met at that Samsung.
met. Yeah, and then we met. Then
Well,
we met.
no, he said he'd seen you on Big Time Rush, and this was before Big Time Rush.
Oh, maybe it was during Big Time Rush.
No, it's during.
It could be.
Yeah, it was during
I don't
Big
know.
Time Rush. Yeah.
You took that kind of shit gig for Money Hoppin'?
I don't know. I was trying my best. You know what? You have to remember, between first season and second season
Oh,
of
you
Big
didn't
Time
know
Rush,
it. Yeah, that's
there
true.
was
There
1
was
year.
nothing
It was
going on.
1 year between seasons that
Yeah.
first year. So, anyways.
That's true. That's where
Nice.
we might have still been performing at video stores back then.
Yes, we
which
probably
did.
were. You bet. Mike, where can they find you in the world?
Oh man,
Yeah.
my Twitter's great. It's at Glazer Boo Hoo Hoo.
I love it.
I like that.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Brian, over there on the microphone. Brian, pop in.
Yes, hello.
How are you feeling? Are you okay? Are you angry at me that I set you up on a date with this girl that you haven't met yet?
No, she seemed really nice. And,
She is very nice. Very
I
sweet
just, I don't know if I'm really ready to date.
I think she'll make sex with you. I think she'll do
well
it.
then, all right.
She's very pretty, and she got a great singing voice. Tell people where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me at Never Funny on Twitter.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I gotta follow you.
How'd you lock that in? That's a
That's a good one, actually.
I've been on Twitter since 2009, and I have fewer than 100 followers.
Oh my God, Brian!
We're
going to
get you over 100 followers by
We're
the end
doing
of this
this.
episode.
You better believe it. Matt, where can they find you in the world?
You can just go to funnymatt.com and find links to everything there. Or if you don't like what I had to say today, let me know at mattwalkersucks.com.
Okay, terrific. Well done. Don't forget to subscribe and to the Nighttime Show podcast on iTunes and share it and leave comments on the iTunes page. I'm at Stephen Glickman, STEPHEN Glickman on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All
By the way,
fun
Never
things.
Funny's up to 99 followers now.
Whoa!
I'm number
nice.
99.
I'm going to do 100 when we get off
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna
air.
do
Triple
do
digits.
101.
There we go. We're getting out of 100 today.
for
Yeah, no.
Scrummy Wumples
I love
is
it.
your name on Twitter.
Don't forget to check out movie Storks
Yeah.
coming to theaters September 23rd
And
with
a live nighttime show.
yeah, and the live nighttime show. Yeah, the live nighttime show in this month, August, is the 27th,
27th.
and I believe the
September 24th.
Yeah,
of
September 24th is the September show.
Which is
These
the
are-
day after Storks comes out.
Yeah, the day after Storks comes out. So go see Storks and then come and see the nighttime show. And Storks, we got Jennifer Aniston, Andy Samberg, Keegan Peele, Kelsey Grammer, Danny Trejo, and me.
It looks
you know.
funny.
And then for
And
nighttime
polarizing you, apparently.
polarizing.
Polarizing
I'm very
visuality.
polarizing.
That will be the.
Yeah,
You can use
Stephen
Ebert.
Kramer Glickman. He's very
It is
polarizing.
Steven doing the most annoying voice you've ever heard,
It's really great.
which
It's a
looks
lot.
really funny, though.
It's gonna be a lot of
looks
fun.
so funny.
It looks
No,
good.
It's ridiculous. And then nighttime show is ridiculous. The lineup for this month is Andy Kindler, Jimmy Pardo, Tom Wilson, Jerry Bednob,
Kate
Quigley, and then Rob Zabrecki, the magician, is our closing act for the
killer
night.
magic act.
Yeah, and then September's going to be even more insane. And by the way, last month our show sold out so damn hard. It was
There was a line down the block.
there was a line down the block, Brian. It was completely sold out. We had to turn away like 30 to 40 people who were waiting. And it was
Yeah.
probably the greatest thing I've ever experienced. I was in the box office and I go, can you guys get these two girls in? They're friends of mine and I promised them they could come in. And the girl goes, Steven, the showroom is sold out. None of these people are getting into the room. And I went, yeah, but can you squeeze something? And she goes, Steven, it's done.
Yeah, we've already done that.
None of these people have to go home. It was so great. Like, as like someone who like I'm always nervous that we're not going to get people to come to the show, but thank God we're at the Hollywood Improv, which is like the most beautiful, classiest comedy
it
club in
is.
Los Angeles.
Great.
It's such a beautiful place, and we get to record our podcast here. Brian, I can't thank
Come
you
to the
enough.
nighttime show, but
Thank
come
you.
early.
Cheers.
So you
Yes.
get it.
Good.
Brian, you're
It was
so
great
cool.
seeing you guys.
We're
Yes, thank you, Brian.
I know we like barely scratched the surface, and there's so much more fun stuff to talk about. But thanks for coming and hanging out with us. And
Thanks for having me.
You're the best. And thanks for checking out the nighttime show. Love you.
Peace.